My name is Philip. I'm a filmmaker, and I love Final Fantasy. I grew up playing Final Fantasy, and it inspired me to get into filmmaking. So it's been so much fun to come full circle and now be able to talk about it on my channel, just share my passion with you guys, because that's really what got me into this, and then what inspired me to get into the arts. So it's so much fun to talk about it, and you may have also seen me in my misadventures, such as living as a warrior monk at the Shaolin Temple in China and getting my ass beat. If you're over on the YouTube side, guys, please make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're going on 10K subscribers on YouTube. If you're on Twitch, make sure to follow for more content like this. Want to do more talks, more cast interviews. Today we have a very special show. We're going to be talking about Final Fantasy VII Remake, both Intergrade, Intermission, theories, predictions, also the future of Final Fantasy in general. And I'm joined by a very special guest, BackgroundGuy02. He is a fantastic creator, awesome Twitch broadcaster, and he actually runs the biggest Final Fantasy event on Twitch yearly. It is absolutely amazing. You can see the graphic there on his side of the screen, and he'll talk to you a little bit about it. But please introduce yourself, BGG, and say hi to the kids, man. Tell us about the Fiesta, too, because it's one of my favorite events.
Sure, yeah. I'm BGG, or BackgroundGuy02, and I'm a full-time streamer on Twitch. I focus primarily on RPGs and Final Fantasy stuff. And every year, starting December 1st, we run the biggest Final Fantasy event on Twitch called the Final Fantasy Fiesta, where myself and my friend Seven Sins race through the entire Final Fantasy franchise main numbered entries, so 1 through 15, minus the MMOs for obvious reasons, without being able to run away from any encounter. So we have to fight or die everything that we encounter, except for the two fights that you have to run away from, which is Bahamut and FF3 the first time you encounter it, and the first time you disable the Atomos robot in FF8. So along the way, we have a lot of different incentives and challenges. Like this year, we collected a lot of the super weapons. We do a lot of the super bosses. We did Vercingetorix from FF13 this last year. Omegas and Shinryus abound and all that good stuff. So at first, it seems like, oh, just don't run away from battles. No big deal. And then you get the 1 in 64 chance Behemoth and the ancient maze in FF3, and then you die, and then that's the last room you can only encounter it in the last room, and it's right before you get outside and save the game, and you get that. Well, good luck, right?
Exactly.
Lionheart on Disc 1 is not something we do because it's slow, but we will do jet engines and 180 triples with Quistis card and wreck everything, but
yeah.
We have our strategies, but the interesting thing about the Fiesta is not just that it's like going through the games; it's a race, right? Which means using OP strats to obliterate everything is great, but only if it's fast.
Yeah, exactly. I encourage you guys to check it out, because I'm sure a lot of you are saying, "Oh yeah, I've seen speedruns and stuff. I know a lot of the tricks," but this is so unique. It's so unique.
We don't do step routing. We don't do glitches. We'll take advantage of no evade and no physical evade and FF6, but you can't get around that, so you have to use it.
Yeah, it's wild, and it's just, again, like he's saying, it's a celebration of the franchise. So it's not just skip cutscenes. It's you get to enjoy all of your favorite stories all over again in the space of a few months. This is a huge event, massive event, and I mean, this guy streams 6 days a week all the time, just powers through this for months. It's insane, the dedication. It's a lot.
We don't skip cutscenes, and we don't skip anything voiced. So we celebrate the franchise, like you say, watch the stories, but also try to go fast. Usually lasts a couple months.
Yeah, it's really fun. So definitely check it out. But beyond that, from playing games as many times as BGG, you pick up a lot of knowledge. You pick up a lot of lore. You pick up a lot of expertise. Oh, yeah. So this is why you guys are in for a treat today. I mean, when I say this man knows Final Fantasy, he just has time with Final Fantasy. He has so much time with it. He has picked up stuff that we've never even thought of. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Final Fantasy VII is one of the lores that I know the best. That and 10.
Yes, 10 a favorite of mine, as you guys know too. So it's always a great combo with BGG. But yeah, I mean, we're going to kind of loosely talk again, super chill as always. BGG, feel free to take it in any sort of direction you want. I got a few things I want to cover, but before we get into it,
welcome to the philosophy.
Basic thoughts.
Let's dance.
Thanks for all the follows, guys. Basic thoughts on Intergrade and Intermission. I would love to hear it, man. What do you think?
Well, first off, I didn't get Vice. He was very mean to me. I got him to about 30, and then he just obliterated me. So I didn't get to watch the extra cutscene, but we'll try again tomorrow and see if we can't get it. So I think I
won't spoil. Don't worry. But I mean, don't feel bad.
So I don't know that cutscene specifically, but as far as as a whole, the product, I think there's a lot of subtlety in the storytelling that they use that's very important to telling a story and making it feel interesting to have a climactic end, while also having a lot of nuance that I think is very genius. And I don't know if it's intentional or not, but the fact remains that accidental genius is still genius.
Yes.
And I think that Intergrade was one of the most enriching DLCs I've ever played in my entire life. Completely worth the $20 price tag. But I think with FF7 Remake, they have something very special, and they could very easily screw it up, and they could very easily make it legendary.
Yes. Great thoughts, man. Great thought. I love what you said about the subtlety. I agree completely. And something I was joking about is like this. It's one thing for them to take, Yuffie, Tifa, Barrett, these kind of like, very well-known characters, very grounded characters in that reality, in that world. It's another thing to take like Nero and Vice and make them actually fit in. Like that's crazy, man. This is the most bombastic, like, again, it's not garbage, but it's just more like, Kojima, like we said on the last talk, right? Like big, crazy anime character, to make them actually fit in. That's impressive, man.
It's no secret that I hate Dirge of Cerberus and Crisis Core. I think they pollute the FF7 integrity, but like, I know. But the characters there, like, they're just characters. They're just names, Like, if they're like, this is a remake, so if they take those characters and they redo their writing and redo their, stories and everything, while still kind of giving an homage to their original base concept, I still think that's fine. I don't have to, like, as long as they're not, having flying cars and everything like Dirge of Cerberus or whatever. Then it's fine. Just write it correctly, and using the same characters. It's just a model with a name. After that you give them their identity afterwards in a remake context. I
agree. And again, with the subtlety, something I love is that first scene where it just shows them kind of underground during intermission, Notice there's no big vaunted speeches, right? There's no crazy exposition. It's just, holy shit, you get the atmosphere in 2 seconds. Like, who the hell are these guys? You don't need to know. It's like, okay, Shinra's got a dark underbelly. We picked that up real quick. So these guys are all like, they're, Hojo's not the only one doing experiments, or, there's some crazy ones besides just like, oh, let's play around with Red 13. And it kind of shows you the scope, but also it expands Scarlet so much. Because we see, like, okay, Scarlet has a lot more power than we think. And I think that is one of the greatest gifts to us with Intermission is Scarlet.
Look how genius she was.
Yeah,
like,
man.
She wasn't just head of the weapons development. She was capable.
Very capable.
She was the inventor, the brains behind everything,
And it was so cool. And let me know if you agree. In this scene where we had her, we have her being, like, racist and really mean and stuff to Yuffie, very, very, in public, right? To kind of like keep up her airs, but then we see her alone with Nero, and the way she is totally different. The way she acts, the way she speaks to him, she's just like, I want them to suffer. She's upset. She's visibly upset. She loses her cool, like, I'm a sexy woman who's in control. She loses that for a second, and she's actually pissed off, and that was really cool to see. And it's just turning them into humans, like her, Heidegger, everybody. It's great.
What was really interesting to me was how, obviously powerful Nero is, and just how casual she was around him, because like he may not be visibly showing it, but he either respects her or fears her, and that's important.
That says a lot, right? And you just nailed it, dude. Show, don't tell, right? The mark of good storytelling. This is like,
yes, exactly. Yeah,
hand over
something
fist.
I profess often. Yeah,
so much in Intermission,
man. You can get so much more emotion and like nuance out of a storytelling through body language and facial expressions with minimal writing. And you don't need to just like have 15 paragraphs of exposition, detailing your favorite color of socks on a Wednesday when it rains. You don't need to know that.
Precisely. And another joke I said is, when Yuffie, I think the best example of this, when Yuffie says to Nero, aren't they your team? Why'd you kill him and everything? And he says, he's just like, he doesn't say team? Deep Ground is a secret Shinra underground operation consistent. No, he doesn't say that. He doesn't say anything. There's no exposition. She even set him up for the exposition. He just says, you idiot. Like, I'm going to kill you or whatever. It's awesome. You understand from his response. He doesn't have to say it. and it's just so great, man. And I keep saying, there's a lot of detractors of the remake and stuff. People who just keep bashing it. They keep saying, "Oh, I'm so worried" and stuff. And I keep saying, like, how much do you need to have faith? Like, they keep nailing it out of the park. They turned Yuffie into a human. She's barely in the game. She's barely a human being in the other game, you know. And now she's a believable young woman. I think it's great.
Yuffie was definitely playful and kind of had that, I'm going to steal your materia vibe. And,
right.
She lures you into traps and stuff and everything. She has this sort of dishonest playfulness about her, but they took that little bit that you get of Yuffie and ran with it and really gave her depth as a person and as a character.
Totally. Yeah, somebody in my chat had a great thought. It was Jedge. And Jedge said, he's like, this is the Yuffie that I remember. Like, and it's the idea that even though you've never seen Yuffie, like as a, animated, acting, face speaking human, it's like, it just shows how well they know these characters. Even though like they got across what they needed to with these little like Lego caricatures back then, there was something there, as we all know and we love. But the fact that they can keep that, even though they've added so much and expanded so much, it says a lot, I think, about how they how well they know their own characters.
It's actually something that I was talking about just today before I came in, a couple hours before, was the improvement that was made in like character personality and like how, despite being very limited in like what they could portray with it being, no voiceovers and, very limited writing, despite, for the time it was quite good, but how much it feels just like the characters that you imagine them to be.
Yes.
And the biggest climb was actually Tifa, because she didn't really have much of a personality in the original other than being, girl. And they just completely made her something that still feels familiar while also being completely new. Yeah.
Tifa is just, I think, a standout for me, absolutely, in the new game.
It's the biggest climb, yeah.
I mean, what a because, like you said, she kind of had her function in the story as the sort of rock for Cloud. She's his childhood friend. She's very kind. She's there for him. Her flaw is that she's too kind, right? Doesn't tell him when she should that something's wrong. And then, she's there for him in the live stream and, loves him later and stuff. But it's just like this, I mean, to take that and turn it into such a living human, I think for Cloud too, honestly, beyond just the text we read on the screen, it's just mind-blowing. I said this to you last year, BGG, like the little silent moments, or not silent, the non-action packed moments where they're just chatting in Tifa's room over at the apartments or Cloud's room.
Or the drink.
My God. Yeah, the drink in the bar. It's just these human moments where it actually was some of my favorite parts of the game, where I realized like, oh my God, this is no longer, PS1 graphics characters. This is real people.
I love personally the lack of dialogue between Cloud and Tifa. You know what I mean? Where it's like
totally.
They want to say the things that they want to say, but being human and, feelings and stuff, it's hard to express that stuff as a human, and that you feel that and you see it in their body language.
Yes.
And it'll be interesting to see how they expand on that, or if they don't.
True.
Because, I mean, there's definitely, like a romance vibe between those three, Aerith, Tifa, and Cloud, but it's never really fully realized. And and that's kind of a good thing. You don't need to force, like, get the girl, kiss her at the end, beat the evil. Like, sometimes it just kind of needs to be more implied than anything. But that was still a part of the original game, that sort of connection that they have. And
absolutely,
you can kind of see how Cloud will like, oh yeah, 2000, what's what we agreed upon. That's what I'll go out and do the things with you. Yeah, no problem.
Yep.
That's what we agreed on. I'll go. He's like, yeah, sure. Yeah. Because he wants to be with her.
Oh, and I love it too, because like you said, it's believable. And just like the Nero thing that said it, there's no exposition speech. It's real. Is when she says like, so where'd you go after you left the village? Like, I didn't hear. What did you do? I didn't hear about you at all. And then, in the classic kind of anime writing, that a guy who likes the girl would just open up, do whatever she says, and just kind of fall on his knees for her. Cloud can't talk about it, because that's like real trauma shit. He doesn't want to talk about it. He just says, that's a lot to say to somebody.
He technically doesn't remember.
Yeah, he also doesn't remember, right? But it's like he doesn't even try to make up excuses or he just he doesn't say shit. He just sits there, and it's very well done. They don't ever fall into these kind of I want to say bad. Like I don't think most shonen anime are like trying to be Shakespearean or something, right? But
it's made for younger audiences.
Yeah, it's made for younger audiences, but they tend to kind of just use these very convenient ways to explain the plot. Right? It's not bad. It's just the style. So I'm just so impressed that they've kind of switched it around. And with Yuffie, I think Yuffie could have been a big problem for them. So just like Vice, just like Nero and stuff. I mean, I remember when I saw those trailers, my mouth was I'm like, Nero? What in the hell is going on? Like they're going in.
A little worried.
Yeah, I was just like, I can't believe that they did it, And the fact that they knocked it out of the park, man, I am like 100%. I was 100% faith before, and now I'm just like, man, there's nobody crazier than those guys. Like even Genesis is not as over the top as those dudes. He speaks in freaking theater, and he's still not like, I am pure darkness itself, like Nero. And stuff.
Thankfully, we won't be seeing Genesis because he has the likeness to what's his name?
You're talking about Gakt,
music guy, Gakt.
Yeah,
and Gakt and Square are not on good terms, so
he doesn't like them. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what is gonna happen. I think it's cool though that it's not so much that they're trying to undo the compilation. What they're doing is it's like a story revision when you've written it and you're like, I want to improve this. Let's go back. Let's go through. Okay, let's make things a little bit cleaner. And they're coming in and they're taking these characters who were kind of like put in after the fact, and they're making it into one cohesive story. And it's so cool to see that. And like we said, Deep Ground was there when Scarlet needed them, so she would call on their elite soldiers if she was in trouble, right? Deep Ground's sitting there. It's not sealed by Meteor yet. So I love that they included that because that is what would happen.
They even write it that way.
What's that?
Assuming they even write it that way.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And then it makes you wonder, so this is actually one of the things on my list I wanted to ask you. What do you think after seeing, Deep Ground appear here? Do you think it's a one and done thing? Do you think it was like a fun inclusion for the DLC? Or do you think they come back in later? Do you think it's going to be left for us to assume that Dirge happens the same? Or do you think they're going to have them in the main story now? What are your thoughts on Deep Ground in the future?
So here's my thought on that. It's going to be a little more complicated than just yes, no.
That's fine.
First off, I think that the way that they told the main first part of the story was a way to sort of cut off from the assumption that the story will go the same way and all the extended lore is, because they've said many times the FF compilation is not canon for the remake. We are going to take bits and pieces from all of these different stories that we've told in the past and bring them in a way that we feel is good. And so I think, especially when you consider the fact that the Advent Children kids are kind of those three spirits at the end, or
the Rubrum and the three colors.
Right,
yep.
they represent Kadaj, Luz, and whatever.
Yep.
And you're kind of metaphorically defeating them, but also actually physically defeating them at the same time. It's to cut away that expectation that the all of the story is exactly the same. So, in which it's part of that subtlety I talked about before. But I think that as far as Deep Ground is concerned, I don't think it's a one and done, but I don't think it's going to be the same thing that we, know before. I think what's going to happen is you're going to kind of see the Deep Ground, you're going to encounter the Deep Ground with the Yuffie DLC, obviously giving credibility to the fact that Deep Ground is still a thing, and that's fine, as long as they write it in a way that makes sense. But more than likely, we're not going to see the same story as we know it in FF7, but the same major plot points are still going to occur as far as the main game concerns. And that goes back to a ZacK theory we can talk about later. But I think that the at least we will see Deep Ground again when we do the Midgar Assault later on at the end of Disc 2.
I agree. That's a really good place to put it, because coming back, and they would do that again, call out the elites, right? So I think that would be,
assuming are they the elites though, or are they just like a special force that handles certain things?
That's a good point. They're more specialized, yeah.
Yeah,
like weird stuff.
As far as Deep Ground is concerned, they were just like another experiment on the side using more Mako-based and less Genova cell based experiments, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I believe that's what it is. I believe that's what it is. There's been a lot of crazy observations about similarities in color and animation and stuff with that too, which is a whole other conversation. Like, for instance, there was a big talk with Nero's kind of like darkness. It's very similar, actually, almost identical if you like look at the animation and the particle effects they chose and stuff to like Genova's. That is used when like Sephiroth's dragging it and stuff. So it's a lot of very cool little things, and it's that level of care that has just left me like I can't believe, and I keep saying like joking that we don't deserve this shit, man. Like they are so good to us. Like it's really impressive. It's really impressive. And I want to say to chat too. I'm seeing a lot of good comments. We're gonna have a full dedicated segment later where we take questions. So like. If we happen to miss any, I'm definitely glancing at it and looking at it. Make sure to kind of copy pasta those or have them ready.
I'm eyeballing you, Zora, because I have something I want to say specifically regarding that later on when we get to fan theory stuff.
Yes, and I love what you guys said about Tifa too. So yeah, keep that in mind. We're gonna have a dedicated section where we like go right into chat and ask questions. But so my next thing I want to cover is before we get to our crazy ending theory, which is coming. You already gave your thoughts on Genesis, but assuming
let's dance.
Whether or not the copyrights can be an issue with GAK or if they change his face or whatever, do you think other compilation characters are going to appear? Because my thought was like, man, this is such a cool idea with the DLCs. Maybe they use those characters as like fun DLC things, because then it's not overbearing on the
integrity of the story.
Yeah, it's like we get to include it. We get to kind of raise these characters up into a more sophisticated manner, like we did with Vice and Nero. But it's not like they're going to be hanging out with Sephiroth in the main story and stuff. So, what do you think? Do you think we'll have more of that stuff in the future?
So actually, that's an interesting thought. I hadn't really considered that at all, but I'm kind of got a few things racing through my head. First off, I'm thinking, okay, well. Angeal and Cact or Genesis, whatever. Those actually, what I was thinking with those characters is, since they kind of existed in the past, is bringing those characters back, maybe redesigning them a little bit and rewriting them a little bit. And obviously, we can't have Crisis Core story because that would completely retcon the entire FF7 story, because you got Genova stuff going all over the place.
Oh yeah, speak as you would. It's no big deal. Yeah, we're just hanging out.
In Crisis Core, there's like a bunch of Genova things flying around Midgar. People would remember that, but they don't somehow. Anyway, I was thinking it's very possible for like a Vincent DLC to kind of cover the events and certain small things in Crisis Core to bring those characters back as little bosses for them. Like, because Vincent DLC, the only way that would really work is if it was in the past, because right now he's sleeping.
Yep, he's hanging out. Yep. Well, that's an interesting thing is a lot of people have brought up, and we can talk about this too, end of part 2, no matter where it is, who's going to be the boss of part 2, right? Because we need some big epic fight. And a lot of people said like it could be Vincent. And I was like, that's kind of a cool idea. You wake him up and he's upset or something. He turns into chaos.
Maybe.
Who knows?
I think
if it ends,
part 2 will end after that, though.
I agree with you. I really hope it's end of disc 1 or later, like Northern Crater, for just like narrative reasons. And I think the PS5, like the more I see, dude, and Unreal 5 is out now, and there's like goofballs playing with it on YouTube. So I'm like, oh yeah, like Square's probably already dropped that shit in there and is, doing it early access. So from what I've seen on the PS5 already, not with Unreal 5, I'm like, I don't know, man. I think they could do a massive world. Like you can just drop like kilometers upon kilometers of space on Unreal 5 and powered by the PS5, and it's just like it's nothing, man. You don't even have to compress your assets anymore, which, from what I understand, is like a massive part of that just eats time and development. Is you have to take your beautifully designed model, whatever it is, and then like you have to downgrade it and take the time to make it crappier to let it fit in Unreal 4. That doesn't exist anymore in Unreal 5. You literally just drop it in. Yeah, you just drop it in. And it's like...
So the way Unreal 5 works is it handles triangles like with some kind of voodoo magic or something.
Yeah.
And
there's like millions.
You can have like billions and billions and billions of triangles on the screen at any given time, and the engine is just like,
Yeah, it
like
doesn't
you
even
don't
care.
need the processing power because the engine handles it. It's really weird. Like there's a Unreal 5 demo that they talk about what makes Unreal 5 work, and it's honestly it feels like witchcraft.
It's materia in the every PS5 has like a thunder materia in it or
So
something.
the possibility of like a more semi-open world part 2 would allow you to have a draw distance that's ridiculous. You know those grand
Oh yeah.
scenes that you get when climbing Ruin Sector 7, and those are 2D images.
Yeah, you
when
don't
you're
need to do that
looking down.
anymore. It could just be there, right?
Yeah, they would render that all
Yeah.
completely in full detail
Yeah, it's
all at once.
And something I want to note, a lot of people keep saying this, and I think again nobody knows, right? But I think it's absolutely not the case. A lot of people keep saying like, oh, whatever, like part 1, like that with the intermission, like that's how it's gonna look on PS5 exactly. I'm like, it's gonna look a lot better, guys. Like that was still Unreal 4. So even if it just means bigger draw distance in those same exact model use and stuff, it's gonna look ridiculous. And I think they probably up the animation and stuff too, closer to the like you notice how the clothes move and the hair moves in the CG cutscenes. How it's just like much better and more realistic. They probably can encroach on that just because it's so like looking at dude, I saw you playing Ratchet and Clank on your channel, BGG. It looks like a Pixar movie. Like it just does.
Yeah, it looks like you're playing a Pixar movie. It's pretty nuts.
And not to mention the crazy, city backdrops and stuff you were showing me. So, and like the teleportation and everything. So I think it's going to be massive. I've been saying this for over a year now. Like nobody's thinking big enough, not even me. And I'm the most ridiculous, big talker of part 2 and everything. So I think it's going to be great.
The one issue I would say that is that the concept behind the FF7 remake is that you're supposed to be able to fit the next part right behind part 1, and it's just supposed to fit in like a puzzle piece, and boom, the game just continues. Chapter 19, whatever. If they do that, they would either have to sell it as an individual thing and transfer your save file over, or just have the first part be the way it is, and you just play into it, and all of a sudden everything looks prettier. Or they'd have to go back and redo a lot of the assets in part 1, which would be a lot of work.
That's true too. I assume it'll work in the similarity ends there, just in the same way like a Mass Effect did, the first trilogy, where like part 2 looks better, part 3 looks better, and it it's all transfers your file, your character, your data, your decisions and stuff. But then like then when it's all over, you get the fully remastered, everything looks at how it did at the end or something like that, right? But who knows? I would just, knowing Square Enix is obsessed with visuals and just presenting the best package, I would assume that if they can make it look better, they would. Because the more I thought, I was like, man, the PS4 is amazing, obviously, but I mean, it came out in what, like 2014 or something like that. So
the PS4, it's like 7 years old now. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and the more people were like, oh, I can't believe part 2 and part 3 won't be on PS4. I'm like, what do you want? Like a decade from now, it's still coming out for PS4 only? Like, nah, I want to see them make it the best they can.
Concern, but they had to move on.
Yeah.
It was better they did it with the Yuffie DLC than with part 2.
Totally. And I'm fine with it because part 1 was a full game. It was a full experience. It wasn't like, some telltale episodic like 2-hour experience, right? It was a full, for me, like I think a 40 to 60 hour experience my first run. I mean it was, stream time, but still.
I had almost 100 hours.
Yeah. I mean to plat it was over 100 for me, yeah. To plat it for sure. But yeah, I'm really excited for it, and I just can't wait to see what they do. I hope they just expand a lot of mechanics, and the good thing about part 2 is it's going to have so much more length anyway, just because you're going to be able to wander around, right? Even just wandering without extra side quests, it's going to be fun. Like, and I think if they're smart, and they said this in an interview, and I was overjoyed that they want to get the feeling of actually traveling together with the guys. And this was the best news I've heard, because I've been saying this too for a while. I want like that feeling of camping, because you never get that in the original, right? Just like tent appears, like old school Final Fantasy, and then it's night and you wake up. Picture 15, but like good juicy camping. You can walk around. There's a couple mini games in 15 at camp, but picture you can kind of walk around. And I said, after the Sonon Yuffie stuff, I was like, man, can you picture if there's like optional limit breaks or something, like, a bunch of extra fun optional content you could get? Team attacks, limit breaks, whatever, team limit breaks, like cross slash from Chrono Trigger and stuff. Can you imagine if there was like some sort of relationship dynamic with like Cloud Vincent, Cloud Yuffie, Cloud Tifa, Cloud Barrett, where you talk to them, you do mini games, whatever they choose. And then, if you get to that relationship level, maybe you get a special team attack, maybe you get something. Just spitballing randomly, but I mean, the options are endless at this point after just seeing like Sona and Yuffie.
Another thing that I talked about after my playthrough on normal when the game came out was the possibilities for the part 2 combat, because they don't have to just use the same combat, and they probably don't want to, because they've gone on record many times saying they don't want to make the same game. At the very least, they're going to want to give it some juice, And one of the things I talked about was kind of equipping, because you're going to have your full team. You're going to have at least 6, right?
Yep.
Equipping a person as a sort of piece of equipment, more or less, but it's like a buddy system where you can either switch between them with an ATB charge or summon them in battle for special attacks. Like you could use Sid's dynamite attack.
Oh, yeah.
But,
yeah.
You just use an ATB charge for that, and then you kind of like summon him in or whatever.
Oh, that's a great idea.
And then or additionally doing like team attacks like Yuffie Sonnen, kind of thing, but they pair with the character that you're quote paired with, and they can give you like a little bit of stats for being paired with, and like Sid gives you vitality and HP and strength, and then you pair Yuffie, you get speed and magic defense and attack or something like that. And you can just go wild with your imagination at that point.
This is juicy. I like what you're saying, dude. I mean, it almost sounds like what is it? Dragon Ball Z Fighters, the fighting game where you can like you call somebody and they just do like a crazy attack, then they're gone. You switch to them or whatever, right? That's a great idea, man. You might as well like picture FF10 character switching, but like with that bonus team attack or something. Oh, that's juicy.
What would really be cool, I think, would be the best is if you at the very least had a toggle between 2 characters. Like Sid is equipped, or Cloud is equipped to Sid. You can toggle them in and out with an ATB. Tifa's equipped to Aerith. You toggle them in with an ATB. Barrett's equipped with Yuffie. Toggle them in with an ATB charge. And at the very least, you could do that. It would create such a huge dynamic. And this is really interesting right here. A lot of concerned about the materia, well, you already have everything maxed, level 50, 999 HP, whatever. Well, they can break all those caps,
There's a ton of ways, yeah.
They can go to 20k HP, arbitrarily. Yep. But not only that, but it gives value to a much more broad ATB building system where you have limitations in ATB already. That's important. You're supposed to have only 2 elemental materias at most. You're supposed to only have 3 praise at most. You're supposed to have
enemy
certain
skill.
Amounts,
they only give you a few, right? Stuff like that. Yep.
So now it's like, oh man, I really want the enemy skill. Oh, but Yuffie has it and she's paired to Barrett.
Yeah.
All right, go, overcharge with Barrett, get an ATB charge, bring her in, enemy skill, bad breath, whatever. Okay, cool. And then I want to get Barrett back in, got to build that ATB back up. Boom, bitch, do your thing.
Yeah.
Like there's a dynamic there where you can have 6 builds and still have 3 characters in the battle.
That's a great idea, dude. You got some amazing ideas tonight. Hell yeah. You guys hearing this? How do we feel about it? Yeah, I love it, dude. And I agree completely. A lot of people keep saying to me, like, yeah, I can't believe like they have to find a way to take all your material away, take all your levels away, start at level 1. No. I'm like, you're insane, man.
I don't think they will.
You're going to start at level 51. That was the point. And then like part 2 can be 50 to 100, part 3, 100 to 150, whatever. And then the stuff with the materia, who the hell wants to do that? That's the most boring thing ever. Like, then part 3, part 4, however many parts there are, it's like, oh, we got to get fire again and fear again. No, they're not going to do that. It's insane. Like, nobody wants to do that shit.
I have something more to say about that, actually.
What's that?
First off, we have additional spells like Flare or Tornado or Blizzard or whatever that can be attacked onto the materials.
And even like Firaja.
More than that.
Firaza and stuff.
Oh,
right?
Firaja, yeah. But more than that is you don't spam Ga spells. If you do, you're going to go out of mana very fast.
Very fast,
like,
yep.
There's a lot more value in normal and raw spells almost all the time.
Yes, they're fast as hell.
Especially going through hard mode.
Yep.
And one of the things that they can do to give you more power without even touching the materia is giving you more MP.
Yes.
Done.
Absolutely.
Now you have the ability to spam Ga spells. They can have added materia like faster cast time, so those Ga spells actually have a chance to get off, or like faster ATB charging, or all sorts of different, little buff materias that help make those Ga spells push, and giving you like 3 times the MP. Because like I think the most MP I've ever been able to get is like 170 on Aerith, and that's like
that's Aerith
really
too.
Pushing it.
Yeah, with like MP up and stuff, right?
4 Ga spells, great. You're done now.
Yeah. Oh my God! So Blitz is in chat. He's another YouTuber and FF creator. He just put out a video. I think it was today. That he discovered some crazy shit with like endless MP or something. You have to check it out, BGG.
Yeah, there's like some really special combos that you can do, but I mean, to be perfectly honest, it's so like
it's very well balanced
thing to go the way you want it to go. That I mean, yeah, having infinite MP is great, but I mean, you still need ATB.
Yeah, you need
and
ATB.
If you're blowing all your slots on this buff, then you're gonna be lacking ATB.
Yeah, and I think there's ways that balance it too. And a thought I had the other day, I was like, oh man, think FF10 break damage and HP limit. Think about this.
Yeah.
How hype would it be? Can you imagine? And that's why they're not gonna do this shit where you get fire again, get cure again. Yeah, that'd be the worst thing, most boring thing ever. Imagine if part 2, maybe halfway through it, at the end of something, you get like break damage, break HP cap, and up to 100k. Or even up to 50. Maybe there's some way to do it. And then part 3, or wherever the end of the game is, you can get up to 1,000,000 HP. And it's just like, can you imagine, like in the way FF10 felt, the level, that feeling of like growth and progression? If you're doing like almost 1,000,000 damage at the end and people have, like massive amounts of HP, it would just be like, imagine, restarting remake one day and you're doing like 100 damage. It would be so cool, I think.
There's definitely the possibility of just making the numbers bigger. So
yeah, and
there's no limitation there, really.
So I guess what we're saying is, moral of the story here is, yeah, they're not going to make you restart. There's so many ways I'm sure we haven't even thought of that they've been thinking about, like that they can make it interesting, engaging, and stuff. So, but enough about that. We could talk about that all night. Let's move on to something a little juicy here. Everybody buckle in. Things are going to get a little crazy. We're going to talk about super spoilery stuff, super ending stuff. If you're here now and you haven't beaten it, Lord knows why. But just warning you guys, we're going to talk about the ending of Intermission. We can, speak vaguely at first, whatever you feel, BGG. But my basic thought is this. I'll ask you after. I am super focused, the filmmaker that I am, on this ending cutscene. Not even the part with ZacK.
Let's dance.
which is awesome. But
right?
This short, like the fact that we got a short film for the 5-second walk where you go boop, 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 over to Calm from like Midgar. We got a freaking 100K plus budget short film. Believe me, that shit cost a lot of money. Commissioned by Visual Works Film Studio, of just them traveling together. It's like what I asked for. Remember, I was always like, oh, I want to see how they're traveling together. They didn't need to give us that shit. There's no reason for it. And they give us this amazing slice of life thing that just gives character connection, character development, shows Calm, shows Chocobo Bill going over to the Chocobo farm at the end, like shows the open world that you'll probably be wandering around in. I couldn't believe it. I'm still floored by it. We don't deserve this shit. And there's Crystal with a raid. So, BGG, let's thank Crystal for this raid, and then you take the floor. What's going on, everybody? Hell yeah, Crystal raid with 49. I saw you were playing some FF4. Very exciting. I got BGG on, special guest, and we're talking about FF7. Fair warning, if nobody's finished Intermission, we are like thick into spoiler territory. What's up, Garrett? Another name I know. Welcome, welcome. Shout out to Crystal, great creator. BGG, please give us your thoughts.
Hi, Crystal, and Crystal friends.
Yes.
So, right, the ending of Intermission.
Yeah, and feel free to.
I felt the same way. I was kind of blown away. I was like, whoa, back it up. We are getting this little snippet of the crew walking along and everything. And it was, first off, clever and playful and fun, with Barrett and the Chocobos and Chocobo Sam, not Chocobo Sam, but was it? Yeah, Chocobo.
I think Chocobo Bill.
Chocobo Bill.
I think.
Yeah, Chocobo Bill and
the
bump, hitting the bump, and Tifa's like bumping up against him, and she's like, sorry, and he's like, no problem at all.
So did you notice something, BGG? I watched it a couple times. When that happens and Tifa does that, you see Chocobo Bill kind of like smile as Tifa touches him. Look at Barrett.
Yeah, he's happy.
Look at Barrett.
A pretty girl.
In the back seat, Barrett gives him a look like, oh, you son of a, like this kind of fatherly look, like you son of a bitch, don't you get funny ideas with Tifa. It is so good. Like the subtlety of Barrett, he looks him up and down like, you mother. It's so funny. And
just the whole little cutscene that you get, like they didn't have to do anything. Just like you said, that's exactly how I felt. They didn't have to do a damn thing.
Nope.
But they gave us this insanely like heartwarming and also like this little jump step into the part 2 that we're gonna get. And one of the other things that you didn't mention that they showed off. First off, that wasn't pre-rendered. That was in game, and they were showing off the dynamic weather and rain effects. So when you see those little rain splotches and dots and everything, that wasn't a pre-rendered cutscene. That was in-game visuals.
Oh wait, you're saying that that's what part 2 is going to look like? That's what you're saying?
That is a rain effect that we are going to get. They're showing off.
Damn, dude. If you're right on that, I am like 100% happy. I'm 100%. If that's Unreal 5, dude, it could be. Like I said, this was probably made a little bit back. It's definitely by Visual Works, but Unreal 5 is, I'm telling you, it's like, I don't want to sound like, a Jedi, but it's more powerful than we can possibly imagine. But I really think it is.
It could very well be UR5. One of the fun facts about UR5 is that you can take your UR4 project and plop it right in. Yes. And just go from there. Literally.
And a lot of people are saying, like, sounds too good. Oh, Crystal's going to head out, but let me just shout her out quick again. Crystal, fantastic artist, entertainer. She's playing FF4. Check her out. She also draws. Can we get I think Lonnie's in chat. Can we get a exclamation point Crystal command in chat besides the shout out? Because that's going to link her art store. And you can actually buy her artwork. You can actually see it behind me on this poster board, this easel behind me. Final Fantasy artwork out the wazoo. Check her out. Fantastic artist. So have a great night, Crystal. Thanks for the
so much of her art.
Yes.
I just moved. I have tons of her art just ready to hang, and it's like the process is slow, but Crystal, don't worry. We're gonna have the Hall of Fae. Okay, yeah. It's coming.
Yeah, I'm much more degenerate. This man, has a fiance, has a house. I just have it thrown up on a random easel behind me. Okay, but it's awesome all the same. I'm a vagabond over here, but yeah, Crystal, have a great night. Really appreciate it. And, for all the Crystal people, welcome. If you have any questions, put it in chat. We will be taking questions soon from chat. It's a pleasure to have you. But not to get too sidetracked. Yes, I agree 100% BGG. If what you say is true, you will have earned my trust, to quote Star Wars Mace Windu. No, if that shit is true, I am like, I'm going to jump out of my seat. I'm so excited. The hype.
I have more to say regarding that, but we wanted to talk about the walk. But
yes, we want to talk about the walk, but let's push into the ending as well. But I agree 100%. I can't say enough. Incredible short film for no reason. And I'm sure we'll talk about this in a second. There's a lot of layers to that scene. So let's have you go first, and then we'll circle back.
Regarding the walk.
What? No, tell me about what you think of the ZacK scene. Let's get to it.
Oh, okay. So a lot of people are concerned about the ZacK thing because we see ZacK and he's opening the church door and he has a Buster Sword. Well, that's not right because Cloud has the Buster Sword. So I want to go back to the original ending where you see your group kind of passing by ZacK's space and ZacK has kind of got Cloud going on. Just like the original, he's holding Cloud and trudging towards Midgar. Now the difference is that ZacK wins the fight, and that's been a big point of contention. Lots of questions. So it's clear, very clear, that this is the week before, and you're kind of passing by this point where ZacK was, and Aerith can kind of feel him because like he was there, and she stops, and it's like the steel sky, I miss it kind of thing, to kind of give this very sort of romantic sort of feel to the journey ahead kind of thing.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
But one thing when we get to the church, we're thinking, okay, are these refugees from Sector 7 in the church? Well, first off, Sector 5 is kind of far away from Sector 7. You got to go through Sector 6, and there's all the monsters there and everything. And so, like, refugees wouldn't be in Sector 5. They'd be in Sector 8 or something like that. You know what I mean?
True. Yeah.
And in fact, well, they were by Wall Market, which is technically Sector 6. So, they're not really going to be way over there. But here is my theory on ZacK, which is potentially going to blow your socks off.
I'm ready, man. Give it to me. Yeah, let's hear it. Get ready, guys.
The
Buckle
ZacK
in.
You're
Buckle in.
Is not a current time ZacK. It is not
alternate
dimension or time travel or whatever. This is ZacK from a week ago, but he lived. And he's going to the church to go see Aerith, and she's not there. Something else is happening. Something else is wrong. Here is my theory. Okay, so
Okay.
first off, you can't just abandon Cloud. Can't just be abandoned. He's still kind of comatose. He can't really take care of himself.
Yes.
Cloud is going to be in some kind of lean-to apartment thing that ZacK managed to scrounge.
Okay.
And he's going to be nursing Cloud. And you're gonna get all these little snippets of ZacK scenes as we go through different parts of the story. So like part 2 end, we're gonna get another short little ZacK scene. You know, part 2 DLC, we're gonna get a short little ZacK scene, and all these scenes are gonna culminate to this point where ZacK actually dies and passes on the Buster Sword, which is going to lean into the Cloud restoration sequence in Disc 2, where you fall into the live stream with Tifa. It's all going to kind of culminate and come to this point where we see the true story of ZacK and him going back into Midgar, doing this stuff with Cloud, finding another sort of problem. He needs to sacrifice himself to save Cloud, and that's when he passes on the Buster Sword, and then Cloud remembers, like in the restoration sequence in the live stream. It all comes together in this one big circle. Boom! You now have the origin of Cloud start as you would normally have there, with this whole little bits and pieces ZacK storytelling to play off of people. That's the genius of it. It's making people go, oh, fan theory crazy, you know, and then in the reality, it's just the normal timeline. You're just seeing a week before when Cloud or ZacK goes into Midgar. He just dies in a different place, but he still dies.
Okay.
And it's
that's
going
what I
to
was
lean
going to
into
ask.
the Cloud restoration to get the truth that, you know, he's not a soldier. He's not ZacK, and he's just Cloud. He was there.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, that was my one question. Is like, okay, so this is that original. It's all one timeline. This is just before he survives. Something else happens that's important, and he goes. That's a great theory. I have not actually heard that one. That's fantastic, dude.
Yeah, I think you're just seeing week before ZacK, and they're just retelling the way that ZacK passes on his Buster Sword to Cloud.
That's great. That's a great theory, man. Yeah, I was curious what you thought, because you said you had a good one. That you delivered. That's really cool, because I like that, because it could give a lot of people have the concern that it's not going to have the same themes and the same kind of deliverance of scenes and everything. I mean, that would be completely in line with what happened before. Somebody said, but Stamp. Yeah. I think
Okay, so Stamp is an interesting thing. Stamp is just figurative. It's metaphorical. It's not literal. Stamp is just there to let you guys know, hey, it's different. And so is this remake. You know, it's going to be a different storytelling. Do not, you know, assume that we're going to have a word for word retelling. And it's perfect that it shows up when ZacK is at the ZacK scene, because it's basically saying ZacK is going to be different. Like it's right there in plain writing with the bag slowing down right below ZacK's body. ZacK different. Things are going to be different, you know? Does it mean time travel and alternate dimensions? No. There's a couple other theories that I have about ZacK, and like I think they're not as credible as the other one. But first off, it could be that we're just going to see a what if. It's still a red herring, that it's just a what if of, you know, what if ZacK doesn't die? This is the story that we'll get, you know?
Yeah.
And then the other one I think is still a red herring, and that is that he's a remnant, and Sephiroth is just planning this whole remnant to pretend that he's ZacK, so that he can screw with Cloud some more.
Oh shit, that's a good one too. Oh, that's rough.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
We already know that he can manifest weapons as on the remnants. He does it with his own weapon, so he could. The Buster Sword would just be part of that manifestation that Sephiroth is doing.
Yeah, and remnants clearly like can appear different, because I mean, Cloud literally sees Sephiroth on those two different remnants. So yeah, or three different remnants. So yeah, it's incredibly possible. I like it, man. I like it a lot. My thoughts. Let me know how you feel about my take on it. My take was similar to yours, as we've always kind of been in the same camp here. Is I have a lot of faith in the storytellers. I'm just excited. Like the execution's so good that like they haven't dropped the ball at all yet. Like it's gonna be good, whatever happens, right?
Yes.
But for me, I was like, I still think I'm in this firm camp that I still think everybody can still be pleased with this remake, even the most like super upset people who think it's gonna, you know, turn into like 18 different timelines and everything. I think they can be pleased too, and it's not gonna be that. But I think what could be a thing is a lot of people have been talking about this. I chatted a bit with Baby Seal about it too, another creator we've been talking to, is that ZacK could be dead. And this is a thought I had earlier today too. ZacK could still be dead, like already, like as slightly different than BGG. I agree. Same timeline, same dimension as I read. You could argue almost that he's sort of in the life stream now. Because think about it like this. In the way you talk about Sephiroth using the remnants, there's been some talk of what if the planet is using ZacK as a weapon? Like the planet fought so hard, whether it was the Whispers or whatever that's hinted there, with this singularity and this explosion, to like keep ZacK and it'll bring ZacK back as like this sort of remnant, even if he's in the life stream. And the cool thing about that could be that, number one, he's not like in our world. And there's a whole lot that goes on in the life stream, in like the consciousness of the planet in this story. He could be like our viewpoint character in all that. And then it could be this. Yeah. And it could be this cool kind of take where I hope that the same themes are there as well, or at least, similar. And it could be that at the end of it all, we kind of have to come to this reality, same as the old one with Aerith passing on, is that, our loved ones do pass away. And they do move on eventually. And you have to, what does it mean to get over them? Where do they go when they die? And it would kind of keep in that idea, if kind of like what BGG just said, like it's very similar kind of thematically, is that a lot of us are kind of like, clinging to hope. Like, oh yeah, ZacK, he's going to come back and he's going to do all these things. He's going to hang out with Aerith.
Right.
And then we realize like, oh no. And then maybe even ZacK realizes, and like, he comes to the revelation of what he is or what his purpose is, that like, you have to move on. Like things do end, and it's okay. And your time comes, or your friend's time comes, and it could be like, oh, he's already gone, or maybe he has to do something like BGG said, another sort of sacrifice where it's the same Cloud story. But I guess what I had this idea was, I said this to BGG a year ago, like I still think ZacK dies right after he walks away. He dies in the rain, and a couple of elite soldiers kill him, not that army of like 100 or whatever, right? Those grunts. It's like a couple.
Would even line up with Crisis Core.
Yeah,
because he still dies there.
That's in the original and Crisis Core, right? So, I think how cool would it be? Is this whole time we think like, what's ZacK doing in the church? Who are these guys? What's this sickness? This trauma? Was it the plate collapse? What the hell are they doing? Why are they refugees here? What if that's like almost like a manifestation of death? Like these people are kind of wandering in this again. Don't confuse this with time travel timeline stuff, but like this sort of parallel existence of death, the afterlife, and they're in Midgar, but like they can't see the living, and the living can't see them. They're just in like this afterlife, this heaven, whatever you want to say, and they're kind of all
like
hurt.
Purgatory.
Yeah, and they're all not to mean in like a punishing way, purgatory, but yeah, they're just that's the afterlife.
Well, stuck in between is kind of what purgatory is.
Right. And like that's why they look upset and hurt and stuff. Maybe they've just died and they're there, Just like when ZacK looked kind of messed up. But yeah,
it's kind of a neat little theory where it's like not an alternate existence, but an existence after,
Yeah. And again, a lot of people kind of might take this as, oh, it's a parallel. It's like, I'm not even saying it. It's a little bit more metaphorical, I think, is where I'm going with it.
Right.
But, say that there's this big revelation at the end, say it's part 2, part 3, near the ending, where we realize like, we see, how ZacK died when you see it in the original game. We see the whole scene of how he died after they walk by, and you realize, oh shit, he still died there. Like he's dead. I think that'd be kind of cool. But honestly, the execution's so good, and it's all about execution with storytelling. I'm very excited about it. There's also been some cool theories about, like Baby Seal is very firm into the stamp sort of significance camp, as a lot of people are, and he has a good point. I hadn't even thought of this. We're going to get a big dose of information like the first time we see Stamp in part 2, no matter what it is. Like, is it the Beagle or is
They've
it the...
They've already hinted it too much there.
Right. Like, what do you think? Which is the Stamp that we see? Is it going to be the changed Stamp that we see with ZacK, or is it going to be the original, what is it, Beagle, right?
I think it's going to be the change Stamp. I think the creators were very clear that this
now things
stamp
are different.
Is now the new stamp. And again, I think it very much is more representative and not literal. It's more of a developer message to the player saying, listen, we're going to have differences here. It's not going to be the exact word for word retelling. In fact, I had a little bit of a theory where they're going to kind of trick players into thinking one thing, and then they're just going to do the exact same major plot point. They even said all the major plot points are going to still happen, but we're just going to tell it in the way that we want to.
Yep.
So you go back to my ZacK theory where ZacK still dies. He dies before Cloud and Tifa hook back up in Sector 7.
Yep.
We're just telling more of that story in the little Cloud ZacK snippets that we get at the end of each of these missions, the main story and of course the intermission. And so it'll all play into, him dying, but just before they meet. But also they could do the same thing with Aerith, where she doesn't die there. Because Sephiroth said 7 seconds until the end.
Yeah.
In the original, that's a 7-second cutscene.
Yeah.
Time enough for you, maybe. But in the log, it says 7 seconds for Meteor. But clearly there's more than 7 seconds there,
I think it actually says before the end of the world, which is cool because it could be interpreted as it's the end of Cloud's world. Yeah, it could be the end of the world with Meteor. So I think they kept it ambiguous, right?
So I think that what's going to happen is Cloud is going to deflect, and Aerith will live, but not that much longer, and then they'll bring it back full circle.
Totally,
in another way, just to kind of subvert the player expectation and be like, no way. Kind of like at the top of Shinra Tower when Sephiroth impaled Barret. You're just like, no way.
Yeah.
What? And then of course the spirits instantly, no, this is wrong. But one thing I want to point out is that the spirits, they're gone. They're dead. They're a function of, so the spirits, the
whispers,
whispers, they're a function of the live stream. And that's why Aerith and Sephiroth have this knowledge of the whispers, because they're connected to the live stream. Sephiroth being literally dead and in the live stream, and Aerith being an ancient. They kind of have this idea of what's going on, and Sephiroth's knowledge is far more broad because he's in the live stream experiencing everything the world has ever known and what it wants and what it does. So he has this humongous knowledge of what the planet's plan is, which is the Whispers intend to keep that plan on point. It's not like time travel or destiny. It's more like advanced prediction kind of thing. That's why I think they're trying to get across, but not in so much words. But so, oh gosh, I just lost my train of thought.
It's okay. I can take over if you want. Need a second?
Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with what you're saying about the sort of like prescient vision, as they say in Dune, right? And for me, it's like I love Greek mythology. It's like the idea of oracles, right? And if there's two oracles, which I love to view Aerith and Sephiroth as two different oracles, right? One is natural, chthonic. Like she's able to tap into the planet because that's her birthright, right? That's her bloodline, her past. The planet welcomes her to tap into it and into its knowledge, the future, the past, everything. It's just just one flowing river of life, the life stream, right? But then you have Sephiroth, who is literally unnatural alien force, like forcing his way into the life stream and stealing that knowledge, and abusing that knowledge. And what's the only future you can't see as an oracle? It's another oracle's future. It's obscured, right? And that's been consistent in all mythologies that I know of, and all fiction and everything. It's just kind of this cool, like, consistent idea. So I would love to see that idea of these kind of two ultimate chess players playing each other back and forth. And like BGG said, the big question a lot of people have is, if it is in fact a Sephiroth who has more knowledge from the planet, because he's been into the live stream and stuff, then why would he want Aerith to die, right? She's ultimately his undoing. So it would be interesting, I think, if Sephiroth actually tries to prevent, this could be the big twist, BGG, with expectation. Sephiroth tries to save Aerith because she kills him by going to the live stream, and then Aerith knows that she has to go, and she says, like,
what I think?
I think that'd be kind of cool.
I think that's a really great aspect. I think that's great, but it made me think of something else.
Oh, please, yeah.
And that is that with the thing is that you kill the Whispers, and that's what I think I was getting at overall, is that you destroy the Whispers. They're no longer there. They're no longer this function of the live stream. It's basically an appendage of the live stream that you've severed off, and it no longer has this Whisper power to kind of keep things on track. There's one thing that Red said. It's like, what if our destiny is to defy destiny, and what if that is the point? You're supposed to do that, and the live stream predicted it, and it's also even possible that the live stream is kind of trying to withhold certain very important information from Sephiroth, like trying to keep it away from him as much as possible, because the live stream isn't it is aware. It knows its existence, and it still has a purpose. So there's also that. But one of the things that would be interesting is Sephiroth doesn't know not to kill her because the whispers, that advanced prediction, has been cut off. And that was one of the things that was more interesting about like how Wedge still dies more or less. You kind of know that he's dead, because he falls out the window and he says his last line like that he says in FF7 original.
Yeah.
Tell me that I made a difference, but then you see Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse nowhere to be seen. And now that Biggs is alive, the whispers can't go around to be like, shit, we need to fix this.
Yeah,
they can't.
He's there.
So now there's this additional force that the whispers can't mess around with, which is something that Sephiroth now can't predict. He can't think about. He can't understand more. His ability to know what the live stream wants is also gone. So there's also that possibility. And you saying like Sephiroth trying to not kill her because of that might be a thing, but it might also just be because like now he can't know.
That would be very
live stream
cool.
was able to hold on to it long enough.
Yeah, no, that'd be fantastic. The only thought I have on that is, like, for all intents and purposes, it certainly appears that Sephiroth manipulates Cloud into destroying the whispers. Like he has you
also could be it.
Fight all these people, and then he like certainly in the animation like absorbs the whispers into his arm, into his body, and like obtains something. A lot of people have said it like it's representing the whispers had him like imprisoned and into Midgar. And now he can like escape and do whatever he wants or something. There's been a lot of cool ideas with that, but there's so much in that visual storytelling. When you fight, somebody said when you fight the big guy, what's his name? Like the big whisper looks like a weapon, like one of the planet's weapons.
Whisper Bigum's.
Yeah,
Bigamous
Super
Rex. Big boy is what Bear calls him.
Bigamous Rex. Yeah. When you fight him, hey, Sleep Easy. Yeah, the Harbinger. Thank you so much. Sleep Easy is another lore guy. If you haven't seen his videos, BGG, he has like feature-length film theory videos. It's ridiculous. How you doing, Sleep Easy? But yeah, a lot of people have said like that big Harbinger is almost like Sephiroth's prison. I think that you, Sleep Easy, or Baby Seal? It was one of you guys said that. And then like him, he manipulates you into freeing him, and then he's out into the world and stuff, which is another cool idea.
I actually kind of like that theory because it gives more credibility and value to the whispers because they're kind of acting as the climactic point for the story of the first game. I always kind of just assumed that the whispers were there to give that climactic ending. You needed some kind of common enemy to band across or band together to defeat. And that was the whispers, defying destiny as it would be, or defying the expectation of the future being the same as the original kind of thing.
That's awesome.
And also being a force against them in a way.
Amazing. And there you go.
That very well could, because you fight them at the edge of Midgar.
Isn't it interesting?
And why else
he
would the
can't
whispers
escape.
be going absolutely crazy?
Yep. He can't escape, it would appear. So, it was Sleep Easy's first video. There you go. I was like, I knew it was you or Baby Seal. So guys, check him out, please. Now, interesting thing would be picture kind of like the ZacK idea I had earlier, like my weird ZacK revelation theory or whatever later into the story. Imagine if, say, that sort of Sleep Easy way of thinking is right, and near the end of the story, you have some cool way of realizing like, oh shit, we screwed up in part one. Like we really, really screwed up by letting Sephiroth free or something. I think that'd be awesome. But again, I think a lot of this, no matter what's right, I'm going to stand by this, will be very much like part one. I don't think...
As long as it's not timeline traveling and alternate dimensions and, parallel universes and stuff, then I'm good. I think they know what they're doing as long as they don't do that.
Yeah, totally. And I think no matter what it is, it's going to be, like I always talk about a million times by now, right? Like the Stormlight Archive. My favorite reason I love this book series and the author, Brandon Sanderson, is that it's designed in a way that if there's people like me, BGG, Sleep Easy, Baby Seal, who just love digging into the lore and like learning about the world building and everything like that, much like part one, there's a lot of hints, and you are deeply rewarded for doing that, especially when the story is fully done, right? Because it all comes together. But you don't have to do that, right? You can just enjoy it. You can like be a casual player, get the story, get all the emotions and be done with it. You don't have to like get this insane dictionary understanding of every single plot point and stuff. So I think if they're smart, they lay out those things, but like with Nero, they don't have like a 20-minute exposition explaining everything perfectly. Right. It's just enough so we're like, oh shit, we were right. At the end it's something, and it's not like, it's a breadcrumb trail, not so
If
obvious.
you're paying attention to the story pretty well as a veteran to the original game, you can tell they give a lot of value and reference to the original game all the time. There's all these little subtle things that if you know the original plot points, you know like what's going on, especially with the remnants, having Genova cells, and Sephiroth has control over all Genova cells because of his strong willpower enacted in the live stream after he died. So, every time a remnant is doing something, that's Sephiroth, controlling it to do it. And that's why he can mess with Cloud, because Cloud has Genova cells, and he's just messing with him. But he has a special little place in his heart for Cloud, because Cloud was the only one that was able to kill him.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that. That's such a cool idea.
But
I can't wait to see what they do with that.
There's all sorts of even smaller, less plot relevant points where there's this little nod to the original. So they definitely are doing both, giving a story that just a first time player can just go in and enjoy the emotions and the feelings and the combat and whatever, and also very much understanding the original lore and telling and showing players these little snippets to be like, oh, I know about that because that's the thing,
Yeah, totally. And it's funny you said that, because I went into an admittedly impassioned rant the other night after I beat Vice. When I was like, finally beat Vice, where I was like, it must have been that jazzed me up. I was like, holy shit, I figured out why the ultra purists, and when I say ultra, I'm talking about like the straight up dickhead, like asinine people who just hate for no particular reason. I'm not talking about people who have like, legitimate reasons or just want to hold on to their favorite scenes. We've talked about that, right? These people, I figured it out, BGG. I was like, the reason they're pissed off is these people love to speak from this place of like arrogance and kind of know-it-all, what's the word, condescending way for 20 years about something. Like, actually, yeah, that's Genova, and that's Sephiroth controlling Genova, and that's Kitase actually meant that. They love knowing everything and talking about it. This is the first time in 20 years that they don't know what's going to happen. And even if it's freaking Square Enix, they're just pissed off that they don't know what's going to happen, and somebody else does. Even if it's freaking Nomura, they're pissed off that they don't know what's up, and it just drives them insane. These ultra pure...
That's interesting. I think there might be some value to that. I think you might be right on the money.
Yeah, that was my actually, that was my revelation the other night. You nailed it. Yeah, this chat seems to agree. Because every time I tell you, they're just pissed that they don't know. And they're so used to just telling people how it is,
Let's dance.
It's hilarious that I got a bunch of follows when I said that. You guys are like, screw those people, yeah. But
I have this theory about the Whispers, in that
please.
The genius of the Whispers is not just to create wow,
Phil, your stream is so
a
cool.
climactic ending and a final boss, but also every Whisper represents like an over the top purist fan who just refuses to acknowledge anything different, and you're kind of sort of like symbolically defeating them and cleansing the world of them.
Cleansing the world.
Your stream is so cool. I'm so glad Chad is behaving themselves.
Not in so much words, but basically, like, they need to understand. It's kind of this sort of correction. Like, there's even an ability by the Whisper Harbinger, correction.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Correction.
And it's kind of like they're kind of correcting these purists to be like, listen,
Phil, your
guys,
stream is so
we love
cool.
all of our fans, but seriously, this is not going to go the same way as the original story and lore. We're going to tell it in a way that we think is much more profound and deep and enriching, and you guys are just going to have to accept that. And those Whispers kind of represent that on the side. That's why the subtlety that I think is so genius about the Whispers, if it was intended, and that's also part of the whole stamp being different with the chip bag and everything like that, all kind of part of that. And there's so many little nuances in the storytelling about like how things kind of change subtly. Like, look at this character is different. Look at these things that are trying to tell you that destiny is a thing, And so I think it has this double meaning of like this double meta meaning of defying destiny as a team, as an effort, and also telling these like the super ultra fans that refuse to acknowledge anything different and a remake, and just saying, no, we are the original creators of this game, and 25 years ago it was great, but look at the technology that we have. Look at the storytelling evolution.
Yes.
The ability to tell a story in a video game is more profound and interesting than any movie in any time ever.
Yes.
You can have, 40-hour stories and every bit of it be just interesting and profound. And movies nowadays, they have this formula that's so basic anymore. It's the same formula. And so, like, they want to tell something. They want to tell this story. They want to tell their treasure, their masterpiece from 25 years ago in a way that gives it the life that it deserves. And since they're the original creators of it, they wouldn't know it. Nobody else would know it better than them. They're a lot of things that people don't understand about a story is that there might have been an intent that was not fully realized in the original story, and these are the original writers of it, and they know that intent, and now they can realize it.
Absolutely. And I have to thank Sean. Again, I'm laughing as I just shit on the purists. He gives subs and everything. Thank you so much, Sean, for that wild support. But yeah, I agree. I think it's 100%. You got to understand that not only is this, insane technological limitation on the PS1, like the fact that they told this story that changed the world, changed the medium of video game, and kind of a lot. Who was it that said this too? Somebody called it, I think it was Baby Seal, the first AAA game ever is Final Fantasy VII, right? It's like treated like a feature film, the way they approach the story and everything, the cutscenes. That wasn't a thing.
Yeah, that's actually something I've talked about for years and years and years. Is what made what the reason Final you can like or not like FF7 all you want, but the reason Final Fantasy VII is one of the most important games ever is because it was the first game to tell a AAA box office quality story.
Yes.
In existence ever. It was the first to do it. It opened the doors, the floodgates for other creators and game creators and even movie writers to use that as a medium to tell an epic tale. And like it or lump it, maybe it didn't age super well, but they did that. That's them. They opened the door. Nobody else did it before them.
Yes. And then Blitz just said it in chat too. MGS1, right, comes after FF7. It's like kind of the groundwork was laid out. Then you had these awesome other storytellers like Kojima saying like, "Oh shit, this is a medium for storytelling. Like let's do this. Let's play around with this." And
then you get Metal Gear Solid 1.
Right. And it can't be
brilliant.
It can't be understated, like the impact that FF7 had, because it's just the world would not be the same of video games. Absolutely not. Because you got to understand
it's not even RPGs though. That's the thing.
Yes.
Like even Call of Duty has some kind of like pretty deep storytelling. You have this conflict or something, this war, this
it's
interaction,
like a given now.
Dialogue, things are happening. It's not just the bad guy, the president, the ninjas kidnapped the president and your girlfriend. Are you bad enough to save them? Start game, the end, that's it, right? And that's like what, 5 years before Final Fantasy VII, like, come on.
Yes.
You cannot deny
exactly
the value that FF7 has to game creation.
It's like a given that like those companies are like, well, we have to have a story or it won't sell. And like that is because of Final Fantasy. Like, and again, it's not just the fact that it had it. It's the fact that the success of that game. Like I remember being a kid and people who don't like play RPGs, they don't even know what an RPG is. Everybody had Final Fantasy VII. Everybody's talking about it. If they didn't own it, they didn't have a PS1, they're talking about their friend who they saw it at their house. Like there was nothing like it. And it's just so cool that this has happened. And we're having this conversation now because of it. And then the future success of Final Fantasy 8, 9, 10, and everything's keeping that storytelling alive. But why I agree with BGG mainly is that, yes, not only do they have the technology now, but they are able to finish the story in ways that they couldn't before. And that's not just like ideas in the original story. They can finally tie this thing up because they were able to expand their vision with the compilation in a quite kind of scatterbrained way after the fact. But now that they're able to go back, like, again, I mentioned like a writing class type way, or, when you're trying to publish your short story, revision, where it's like my brother's a published author and he tells me that he still revises stories that have been published like 10 times, his short stories. He's just like, yeah, I got to improve it. Like, I got another idea. I want to go back in. And I can't stress enough, like, especially to people who aren't involved in the humanities, the arts, like as an artist, there's no way in the 7 hells that you, in the life stream that you go back to something 23 years later with the available tools you dreamed of having back then, and don't change anything. It's entitled. It's insane to assume, and
they think they own it.
Yeah, and to demand that these artists do that is laughably entitled, as I said in my Nomura defense. Right? It's insane.
What's really funny is that I lost my train of thought as soon as I spoke up. That's really funny.
It's okay. You had a long stream too, so he's not just hopping out.
Dang it! Yeah. Go on.
Chat has a ton of great ideas, and remember, guys, we will have a fully dedicated take questions section too, because I'm seeing a lot of good stuff here. Just a quick one, because I think it was Kunst. It sounds almost like Kunzel. Had a great comment earlier. I think I'm just gonna bring it up now because it was such a good comment. He said he would love to see, if they bring Aerith back, like, is there a way they could do it with like good writing and stuff? Absolutely, it's all about execution. But he said, imagine we get this. Yeah, well, absolutely. Let us know what you think, BGG. I don't want it for sure, but I think if we sat down and thought for years, we could somehow make it all right. But I think he said another comment, and he said, what if we have this Orpheus moment? And he's referring to Orpheus and Eurydice as they're escaping the underworld. And Orpheus is just 10 steps away. He has to not look back at his love, Eurydice, as he leaves the underworld in Hades. But he can't resist, and she calls out, and he thinks she's already passed from Hades, but she's like 10 steps behind him, and he turns back thinking she's, calling out in victory, but she's just not passed, and then she gets back to hell, and he can't be with her, right? Classic story. So what if we had this with Aerith? And I think that's what BGG was saying earlier, right? It's like, imagine if you have this moment where you think you're going to be able to save her, you think that she's all right, and then it's taken away from you. It's like this kind of grasp slipping through your fingers moment. But what I think is what I said earlier, I think is the way to do that. Right? Imagine if, just one thing that comes to mind, if Sephiroth is actively trying to not kill her, but then it's sort of her power, knowing the power that she'll gain in an Obi-Wan Kenobi way from Star Wars, right? I'll become more powerful than you can possibly imagine if you strike me down. She is the one to say, like, no, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to take you down. And I don't think so grim as like some suicidal, display, but I think that would be an interesting spin on it in kind of an Obi-Wan way. So there's ways to do it and to achieve, kind of have your cake and eat it, so to speak. Right?
I just had a crazy thought about that whole scene, when Sephiroth comes down, and the whole 7 seconds until the end kind of thing. But like he charges in and he parries and then he deflects. And then there's like a couple flashes, and then whoosh, you get a zoom out, and there it is, the sword right through her still, and she's gasping, and then and like Cloud is kind of stumbling off to the side because he got knocked away, So like, like as a viewer, as a veteran, you're just like, oh god, oh he parried, whoa, no, and,
exactly.
You just have this like
you shit your pants,
shocking moment, but then in the second, your emotions are just going through this roller coaster, and it still has the same resolution. And that's kind of what made me think about was that story you told with the Hades and everything.
Yeah. Well, imagine this too. This is, again, I don't think this is not confirmed. Of course, this is another whole theory track. But when people were talking about there's different Sephiroths because of the way he speaks and uses his pronouns in the Japanese version. It's quite interesting actually. He speaks in his like formal way and then his like older way and stuff, and the Edge of Creation and stuff. Which is like the post live stream god tier Sephiroth versus the hero Sephiroth and stuff. It would be so interesting if that's true. It's just an idea I had to achieve this same thing. So the old Sephiroth wants to kill Aerith, right? But the new one, the Advent Children Sephiroth, would not, right? Because he knows like she undid me before. I was undone by her. So imagine if there is in fact two Sephiroths, and then the old one still wants to kill her, so the new one tries to stop it. Cloud, thinking he's saving Aerith, attacks the new one, and then the old one still kills her. So, like, there's ways they could really mess with us, and just the kind of crazy idea I had there. But I guess the point I'm trying to make, just as an artist, as someone who loves writing and everything, as a filmmaker, picturing these scenes, is it's not even so much the exact mechanics of whatever they came up with. It is all about how they deliver it. It's about execution. It's about the package. So any of the ideas we've said, BGG had a really cool idea about ZacK. I had sort of a similar one with my what if we realize we see that scene eventually, and it did happen. It's really about how they deliver it, and I would just encourage you guys to remember that part 1 exists and it's awesome. And then Yuffie comes along and they make Nero and Vice awesome. I mean, what will it take to give people faith? Shish kebab
back
Mario says Blitz. Yeah.
Back to that comment about, if they don't kill Aerith, will it still be okay? And obviously, like, you're right when you say, yes, if they write it right, if they do it right, if they write it differently. And it goes back to a lot of things I said about ZacK and the remake storytelling in general. My ZacK theory is that he just dies somewhere else and you're just seeing the past, and that's fine, as long as the major plot points are still hit. And that's the important factor. And and even then they don't necessarily have to hit, because very much this is a remake, and they may just decide to tell it differently, and whatever you think is going to happen may not happen. But I mean, we've already seen that the major plot points of the original are still being hit. So
yes.
I think and they've said this so much that they're not going to deviate from the major plot points, but everything else will be different. So the thing will still happen eventually, which is Aerith dying more than likely. But I mean, I suppose they could write it differently, and if they did it well, it could still have a good resolution. But it would not be the same ending, because you would need to have Aerith guiding the life force.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of my take too on the thing is, if Aerith was to live, it's not like, so, a lot of people rag on Mass Effect. I guess not rag on it, but kind of say it may not do as advertised, right? When it says like every choice matters, it does for sure. But pretty much like in the dialogue options, like in what people say, right? You're not going to like completely change the story of Mass Effect in 18 million different ways with crazy outcomes. Like, you can just go be a farmer and not do anything. No. But imagine if that actually happens with Aerith. I mean, they would have to not only stop remaking the game, but completely rewrite, diverge, whatever word you want to use, everything. And at that point, it's an absolute free-for-all. They probably have like, Vice, Nero, Genesis, you name it, everybody's back in a final bet. Like, it would just be completely not a remake anymore, which evidence keeps pointing to the fact that not only are they, remaking everything incredibly faithfully and making it better, but the recent interview with, actually it was Toriyama, and I think it was it Toriyama? I think it was. He was talking about Wall Market, and freaking GameStop. I have to tell you, I lost all respect for GameStop if I had any. Yeah. Oh my God, this like ridiculous propaganda article that they put out, literally saying the opposite of what he said. It was Toriyama, that's what I thought. He says that, and this is what was so encouraging to me. He said, if, there will undoubtedly be changes in some scenes. He says, but, if you want to get a good idea of how the changes will happen. Oh, GameSpot, excuse me. GameSpot. Look to Wall Market, right? And yes, Wall Market is a completely different experience, right? New characters and everything, but it's much better. It's modernized. It's not like this cringe, kind of like weird, like, wait, is this trying to be funny but not landing the joke, or is this like straight up homophobic? What's going on here, right? It lands it. It nails it. Amazing new characters. Great message. Chocobo Sam, Madam M, Andrea, Corneo's even expanded. Like, all this awesome stuff happens. So that's what he's talking about. It's the same story, but it's completely rewritten. It's revised. It's better. So it's
has
just
life, personality.
Yeah, it has life. It's personality. It has so much energy and passion put into it. But it's the same story, right? So it's the same way that you have a story treatment as Nomura and Sakaguchi, and then Nojima adapts it to script, right? It's the same thing that happened in the old one, and the same thing that's happening now. And that script is just a higher quality now. Essentially, is what's happening. So, like I keep saying, if they do something like Aerith Survive, it's just the ripples aren't as simple as like, yeah, then they do the end of the game, because a lot of people are like, oh, Tifa will die instead. Yeah, but Tifa's not an ancient. She can't go into the live stream and do anything, right? She can't make anything happen in the live stream. So the whole story has to change at that point. And then Tifa dying really has no purpose, because that was the whole point. Aerith dying is what undid Sephiroth, and like she has a purpose and it's meaningful and everything. So I don't know. I could it be done? Like, yeah, and somebody asked earlier, like, how would you do it and stuff? That's tough. That would take a good sit down. And we've had some cool, fun ideas thrown around. But I think it's going to be a remake still. But I think it's all going to be just like part one. We have our awesome remake. Everything's faithful, but like Wall Market better, more characters, more expanded, better gameplay. And then at the end, we have an awesome extra cherry on top scene, like BGG said. We'll get another little ZacK scene with more hints. We'll get another little this, a little that. We'll get our DLC with more compilation characters. Right? But it's not going to just completely go off the rails and be like, Cloud becomes a chocobo farmer. You know, Tifa gives up on the journey, goes back to the bar. Oh, wait, there is no bar. Starts another bar in calm with Marlene, adopts her because Barrett does something else. Like, whatever. It's not going to be that, right? So if it is, farm boy, exactly. So if it is that, it's going to be very still in line with Final Fantasy VII, I guess is my point. But I don't think they go that extreme. What do you guys think? And then we'll let BGG take the floor here.
Right now?
Yeah. What are your thoughts? I mean,
okay. Sorry. Because
this is, you can take this in any direction. We're just having a good chat.
I think this is exactly like what I've been talking about with like the ZacK story and everything like that. They said very specifically that all the major plot points of the story will still happen.
Yes.
And what's a major plot point? Is like Wall Market a major plot point? The resolution of Wall Market is a major plot point. How you get to that resolution is irrelevant. So I still think, like my ZacK theory, ZacK dying is a major plot point.
Yeah.
So how they get to that resolution is irrelevant.
Right.
Aerith dying, major plot point. Meteor being summoned, major plot point. Meteor being summoned, major plot point. Cloud going into the live stream, major plot point. The ending of FF7 as it is, major plot point. These are all major plot points, like the determining factors for the course of the story and what turn it takes to get there. Those are all major plot points. Everything else is completely irrelevant as long as it leads to those major plot points. So,
yes.
Do I think that's going to be different? Do I think Aerith's going to live? No, absolutely not. But they might change how she dies.
Yes.
So if you weren't here for it before, my ZacK theory is that the ZacK you're seeing is actually just a ZacK from a week ago, and he's going to encounter some new problems, and he's going to have to die in a different way, and then you're going to see the resolution as it like basically comes to this culmination in the Cloud restoration sequence where he finds himself and we learn the truth about Cloud and everything.
Yeah.
So you're not actually seeing parallel dimension ZacK or time travel ZacK or whatever. The Buster Sword is just a week-old Buster Sword. You're going to get there, but we're getting these little snippets, bits and pieces as we go through the different parts of the game to kind of tell that story to play into that. So ZacK's still going to die. So it doesn't matter how ZacK dies. It's just that he does.
Yes.
Again, major plot point, resolution is the only thing that matters.
Yeah, and I agree with two things to say here. Number one, a lot of people again are saying like, I can't believe ZacK's not going to die now. This is insane. Number one, fact, ZacK has already died. Like Cloud has the Buster Sword in his world, in that reality. So that happened. So it's not like they.
Yeah, it has to.
It's not like they changed the story. Like even if ZacK is doing something in like a different version or something, like that happened. So it's not like Cloud doesn't have the Buster Sword and he uses a big bat. Oh wait, he kind of does. But you know what I mean? Like it's not like Cloud shows up with it's the Dragon Slayer from Berserk and not the Buster Sword. Cool, they changed. No, ZacK died and he gave him the sword. Right. So it still happened in the story. It's not like they're changing it. Secondly, a lot of people have said this, right? It is the same story. A lot of people keep saying, I can't believe they're changing it, they're ruining it. This is a continuation and actually somewhat likelihood the final part of the compilation, which is what they called this for years, right? They said one day, like, we will finish the compilation, I think around like Advent Children Complete. Like the final part is coming. We're all like, what the hell's the final part? It's this, right? So I think this is probably going to finish the story. It's not like going back and erasing parts of the story,
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I have a thought. I have something to say on that. From
Please,
my understanding, they scrapped the idea of the compilation and then are doing what they were going to do, which is the final part of the compilation, which was the FF7 remake.
Mm-hmm.
But they're kind of taking a step further and going, okay, look, we had this compilation. We did a lot of fun stuff, but the remake needs to be something more profound. So we're cutting ties with all of that. And then we're having this new project, which is the remake, which is not connected to any of the other FF7 story or lore. It's all not canon for the remake, and we are going to essentially finish the compilation, but it's going to be a brand new remake. So I don't know if this is technically the end of the compilation, because technically they're cutting ties with the other extended story and lore, and they're going to kind of take bits and pieces that they want from it. But I mean, it's definitely like their original intent was to do the FF7 remake. That was their original idea for the end of the compilation. But I'm pretty sure, and I'm not positive on this though, that it is technically air quotes, as far as they're concerned, not the end of the compilation, but still the project that they wanted to do, but also being free of the previous story and lore.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it too. I think like it's all correct, and that the way I have viewed it recently, when I saw the Dirge stuff, I was like, oh shit, that's the term I keep using. It's like this is them given their final draft. This is the final revision, just like you said, pretty much. Like they finally get to, they can scrap all. They're not tethered down by the compilation, but it's kind of presumed that the same stuff happens, like overarching, like Deep Ground exists. ZacK has the story. They're not like changing the story, but they're telling it as one story, and they're telling it better. They're changing stuff for the better where it's necessary. Again, wall market and everything like that, and they're not making it so delivered in a bombastic package, we'll say, like Dirge of Cerberus and others. And it's just, I think by the end of it, it's going to be not only the ultimate telling of this, not only the ultimate telling of FF7, but also the sort of final version of it, if that makes sense. So like a better telling, but also the definitive version, if that makes sense. ZacK's a wild card. Yeah, a lot of people are talking about ZacK too. I mean, I actually was talking to B about this. Eyes on B in the chat, another great streamer. About my ZacK is dead thoughts was that too after, which I think that by the end of it, the same themes will come into play, and that he will. I mean, I said this sort of earlier, right? That they'll kind of get this moment where you do have to let go eventually. It's the same message as the original. People die, they move on, and like even ZacK will have to come to terms with that in his reality. Like notice he goes there and Aerith isn't there. You can't just go back. You can't just come back. So I don't know. I think it would be cool. But
I'd like to know where Blizz is getting like specific dates for things, because as far as I know, there's no information about that. I mean, they don't talk about dates or time, just tomorrow and yesterday and today.
I'm not sure. Blitz, is that from like Ultimania or something? Because I know
a lot of the Ultimania stuff or side writing and stuff is not technically canon. A lot of it's like concepts, ideas, or third-party writers that are trying to write the story of.
I know.
Like, there's this like fan fiction written by somebody that used to work at Square where they detail like Rufus's illegitimate children and stuff, and it's like, whoa.
I think yes, like there are parts that like Maiden that travels the planet, which is not canon, and a lot of people will say that is 100% canon, right? It might fact check me on this, guys, in the checks. I know a lot of you guys know this. Timelines Online Ultimania 10th anniversary. If it's official Square, yeah, I would believe it, but yeah, I don't. I know some of it's like BGG said, some of it is like scrapped ideas that they talk about too. So you have to be careful, but some of it is 100% canon too. So it's very. I
always thought the events of ZacK happened about a week or two before the start of FF7. That was always what I was aware of and thought of. But I mean, I don't read these like extended lore things like the Ultimanias and stuff, because a lot of it is not very valid entirely, and a lot of it is fan theory or fan guessing. But as far as I recall, it's very clearly states, the amount of time that passes between ZacK's death and Cloud appearing in Midgar. I want to say during the Cloud restoration sequence, it says a couple weeks later, I came by Sector 7 or something like that, or whatever.
Right. And again, semantics aside, it doesn't matter that much as far as like the story. Yeah. If it's a month, if it's a week, if it's 2 months, far as like events being packed in and stuff.
The important thing is that they don't actually specifically denote exact days.
Yeah.
So you can assume that a couple days has passed or whatever. So it doesn't really matter what the dates are. I'm just curious. It's a personal.
Yeah, I would love to know, just for like to know if there was a definitive answer and if whoever is right. But let us know if you have like a link or something that can.
Welcome to the philosophy.
But yeah, I think either way, as far as like the larger story is concerned, that's the least of our worries, right? Thank you so much,
exactly,
Coben, for the follow. But again, I am a lover of lore and stuff, and I guess coming back to my previous point, I just hope that if tapped into that deeply, details of that nature in this remake, that they are, for us who are sitting here talking about the most nitpicky details, I hope is rewarding for us.
Right.
And there is like a reason for that, which I think it will be, because the remake has just been that in droves so far, and I can't wait to see. What's next. So we're having a great talk about kind of like future endgame stuff. BGG, just kind of a vague question for you. We talked a year ago, but there's a lot of new info and DLCs and stuff. What do you think is going to be the end of FF7 Remake? Do you think, on one hand, it's going to be the exact retelling of FF7, the ship goes alight and they all blinded by the light, we see Aerith, and then cut to credits? Or do you think that they will close out, FF7 forever with like a definitive ending? And if so, what do you think it is? Or, what would you want it to be if we do get this, like, there's no more ambiguity with anything, with what happens to Sephiroth, no more Advent Children, Dirge of Cerberus ambiguity, like Sephiroth disappearing and stuff. What do you think?
Well, so first off, it was very important that at the end, Sephiroth is completely and utterly dead and even purged from the live stream. That's kind of like part of what you do, because technically the heroes of Final Fantasy VII, they don't do anything.
They fight Sephiroth,
They fight Sephiroth, which is guarding Holy,
which doesn't work.
And then when you finally defeat him, Holy comes and it's too late. And then Aerith saves the world.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, I think that at the most there will be 3 parts. I think the most likely scenario is at the end of part 2 is at the end of disc 1 when Aerith dies. Yep. And that way you don't lose a party member and then have to continue on. The next part will start with you being able to kind of understand and grasp that.
Makes sense.
Plus they'll have it's a very powerful moment. But I think more or less the story is going to kind of end the same. Like I said, major plot point, right? Going to end the same. I think we will get a beautiful pre-rendered scene with the whole thing happening, slightly different than what we remember, in order to give credibility to deeper and richer storytelling. And I think that it's very important that we acknowledge that Sephiroth was supposed to be completely and utterly purged, dead, gone. And the final little remnant that you fight at the end of FF7 is you kind of go through that twisty-turny tunnel. That's Cloud kind of going into his mind. And there's, because Cloud has lived with this self-doubt, this overhanging burden of Sephiroth since the beginning of the game. And he doubts himself because he was controlled by Sephiroth to give him the black materia twice. You know? So
a lot of regret there. Yeah.
I think that, because like that last little bit of that last fight at the end is Cloud defeating his self-doubt regarding Sephiroth in his mind. It's that clarity of mind, that peace of mind that he's finally getting at this most inappropriate of moments, when everything is falling down around him. And I think more or less that we're going to see that a lot more profoundly and succinctly, to the point where there is no ambiguity and there is no doubt that Sephiroth is completely gone, eliminating the possibility of a whole Advent Children thing. Not to mention, I think we'll probably see all the remnants come to their end a lot more clear, because the remnants are kind of going to the crater, but once you get there, you don't really see them anymore. You don't really know why they're there. They're kind of just there. I mean, you kind of know reunion to say it in the original, but then it's like, okay, but did they have the reunion? I think you're going to actually see those remnants, especially considering how much screen time they've given them in this part of the game. They're going to really, really, really establish that lore much more clearly to people. And I do think as the resolution comes, you will not only see a purging of Sephiroth, but also of Genova as an entity, because, you're going to have to fight Genova, right? You're not just going to beat it up like you do in the original and you move on to Smirnoff and that's that. Like you're going to purge both Genova and Sephiroth from the star completely, burning them out. And I think that'll kind of like prevent Advent Children from being a thing in general. And especially considering that the fight that you have at the end of 1 with the basically Kadaj Luz lookalikes, you're kind of sort of
destroying it,
metaphorically, symbolically destroying them, which kind of is destroying that possibility, that future. And I think it could very well be a nod to the actual resolution of the game, where they are essentially cutting off Advent Children as a possible storyline.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think I agree with you on the part that, well, I guess what I want to happen is by the end of it, I do not want a situation like kind of opening up the possibility of Advent Children, Dirge and stuff. I would love to see it like a definitive ending, not only of the immediate story, but I want to see a definitive ending for Sephiroth, Genova, everything. I want to see that, and I think that's what they want too. Like that's what it seems that this remake is like, to kind of, like we just said earlier, like the final stamp of complete on Final Fantasy VII Forever, and I really hope they do it, no matter the exact details. And there's ideas aplenty of what exactly they do, but
nothing felt worse than like watching Advent Children and be like, oh, I guess I didn't kill Sephiroth.
Right. Nothing mattered. Yeah.
It's like, cool, I did all this stuff and nothing, I'd like even less mattered than I thought, it just felt like
we didn't even kill him. Yeah.
Yeah. It just felt like there was no reason for him to be there except for fan service. And they could have just done it, much more differently. But
interesting, just because
hold on, kitty.
Just saw it. You got a kitty?
Kitty was on my lap and slipped between the cushions, and I was kind of holding on to him.
Hold on. I just because somebody popped this right in chat and we're on this topic. Do you think Cloud needs to die for Sephiroth to be gone forever? Mainly referring to the lines, I assume, Mig, from the Edge of Creation at the end, where he says like, you will survive. Like Sephiroth is not only trying to work with him, but it seems that he wants Cloud alive and well, which is a very interesting twist on the plot.
So it's interesting.
What are your thoughts, BGG?
That's very interesting because I think not a lot of people realize the real intent of a lot of the storytelling in the original Final Fantasy VII. And when you do that Cloud restoration whole sequence where Cloud finds his true self and his past
with Tifa,
and all that good stuff in the live stream, he's being purged of Genova cells as well, which is why he can encounter Sephiroth without him messing with him. Notice it's kind of like FF10 when you get to Xanarkin and you no longer have the monologue from Titus.
Yeah, because it's current. Yep.
Because it's current now. He's no longer telling his story, right?
Everybody misses
in
that.
FF7,
so many people miss
you
that.
never get any more of those like, oh no, I'm having crazy moment again anymore once you have that live stream purge, because the live stream has this ability of cleansing you. It's the live stream. It's taking all of that corruption from Cloud and taking it away and taking it out of him. And that, I think, is twofold very, very important. One, you no longer have Sephiroth to mess with Cloud, because as long as he got Genova cells, he could just toss him on the ground. Nothing, he's nothing to him because he has complete control over him. But two, it shows that Cloud is not superhuman, and he's just as human as everybody else. Tifa and Barrett and Red 13 and Ketchy and Vincent and Yuffie, they're
strong.
Are just people. They're just normal persons in this world. Obviously, it's a world of magic and craziness and everything, so you can have these superpowers or whatever, but he's not Genova Cell souped up superhero. He's just Cloud. And that's a very important scene to humanize Cloud and show that he isn't some kind of superhero where he can just win, because he's got Genova cells. He's just good.
He's is just Cloud. The failed experiment, Cloud, too. He's not like Hojo's grand, perfect specimen and stuff. He didn't even get a number as they talk about. Right?
Yeah.
So, and, he's just kind of left there to rot. But yeah, I agree. And it's really cool that, whatever the details of the lore, and I do hope they're more clear about whatever happens in the live stream restorations. I mean, I think it's really one of the most beautiful scenes in all of Final Fantasy, which we learned Nojima snuck that in, essentially, BGG, the whole like Tifa and Cloud in the live stream, by like kind of just writing the scenes separately. How did he do it, chat? I forget, but he like kind of snuck it in, and then they were like, wait, we're doing this? So it's like one of his favorite scenes, right?
It's a really important scene. I can't imagine the game without it.
Yeah, very important. And I think it's going to be one of the most emotional, beautiful. Just picture the acting. All these times he sees his younger self and younger Tifa, and so I think it's going to be great. But yeah, I'm excited, and I think that whatever happens, I hope it's more clear on the world building aspects, or rather like the magic system, hard magic system aspect of that side of it. And what's up, Zalora, with the raid? Thank you so much. Welcome, guys. We are neck deep in a deep theory and lore talk about FF7 and the future of FF7. Very exciting. What's up, guys? But okay, so if you have more on this BGG, I'll let you go. If not, we'll move on to another topic. How do you feel about
which topic? Just the end of FF7 remake.
Yeah.
What we think
is anything like you got to get out on your mind right now about it?
I think I pretty much nailed all the points that I wanted to get across.
Okay, perfect. And we can circle back with questions later if people have thoughts. But there's been a lot of talk.
Write down your questions.
Yeah. Get those questions ready because we are going to take specific ones
write
later.
down so you don't forget.
Yes. There's been a lot of talk about this as well, and it's something I'm very interested in. Is the Ancients in Genova? What do you feel they're going to do with this? Will they dive more into it? I mean, look at that awesome CG cutscene we got, right, of the Ancients and stuff back in the day at Shinra headquarters, Shinra Tower. Do you think they
fools not to?
Yeah, they're fools. I agree, and I think they've already, as people have said time and time again, like if you look at the descriptions of Shiva and stuff, it's really cool, man. They've already said like Shiva was a queen. It's like a VR representation of the queen who healed a wound in the planet with ice. So that's like the northern crater in the ice area, like the icicle in
right.
area.
Yeah.
What a clever way to do it.
I've seen some of those and they're amazing.
Yeah. So like it's so cool, and you see the summons in that flashback of the Ancients. So like they were wandering the earth at that point, and I think it's gonna be so cool. But my thing is, I would love to see, as we talk about, I think before BGG, kind of a cool factoid, guys, in the chat, is that Idea in FF8 is actually the leftover unused human Genova design that Nomura did. And they used it in FF8 because it was such a I think it's one of Nomura's best designs ever, Idea. It's so perfect, like in every single way from a design standpoint. I would love to see this kind of, Sauron the Deceiver to, go with Lord of the Rings Second Age here, who like fools the Ancients, and then essentially is a parasite, as we know. But to kind of give a little bit of characterization to Genova, I think I like that more than like she's a mindless space parasite who just like infects planets.
I don't think she's mindless, but yeah. I think that giving her an actual like set of lines and a personality would detract too much from the main concept and points and direction of Final Fantasy VII. So yeah. I think it's better as an entity rather than something intelligent. But at the same time, I mean, as you said it before, anything's possible with good writing.
Wow,
so
Phil, your stream is so cool. I'm so glad chat is behaving themselves.
Thank you so much for the sub.
Love it when Phil brings FFVIII into the chat.
Thank you so much. Yes, I love FF8. It's no secret. Idea is perfection. Yeah, I love FF8.
Idea is great.
It's just so Idea I think is possibly Nomura's best design. It's so understated and subtle, but it's perfect in every way. So anyways, I would love to see that.
Sorry to distract you on that.
No. I would love to see it very expanded upon in the remake. And I think in a similar way that you guys know, I've said it a couple of times now in different talk shows and here, my Sephiroth theory, or rather idea, I don't know what to call it at this point, of his backstory. And if you guys missed that, check it out on my YouTube channel. I have a full video on it. But it's essentially related to the Iliad and stuff, and how the Masamune is a Wutai weapon. So why does Sephiroth have it? Because, sort of this like Western, if we go by our world, character with all the Shinra Western weapons and everything, right? So he clearly got it from Wutai, or took it from a Wutai warrior, perhaps. Maybe the strongest warrior of Wutai. But anyways, I hope they do it in a similar way. I would love to see both Sephiroth and Genova like really expanded upon. It's kind of the way that Kefka has absolutely no backstory besides like, he was experiment, the end, and got upset or whatever. Like, I would love to see it expanded upon where, Sephiroth is already much more in depth than Kefka. But I would love to give a characterization, and I think to have him such an Anakin Skywalker character, but not show anything from his Golden Age heroic cycle, does take a little bit away from his fall, right? Because we don't actually see him at all in his famed winning the Wutai War, and I think we do need that little bit of an Achilles moment where he's just murdering thousands of people and literally winning the war for Wutai. And they've already started to give us some cool breadcrumbs, BGG, with did you catch that with Godo in Intermission? He's like a prisoner of war now and stuff. Some very cool things being shifted around where it's like, oh, I wonder if, what if they worked that in? Maybe Sephiroth defeated Godo. Maybe he was the warrior, and he's in prison because of him. And Yuffie's upset with her father. A lot of interesting things happening here. Where is this prison? Is he a prisoner of war deep in Shinra Tower? Is he a prisoner of war in Wutai? What's the state of Wutai? Is it like a martial law nation where like the ninjas snuck out for a mission? Like what's going on there? So,
well, they're absolutely going to expand on Wutai. They would not give so much like screen time detailing Wutai and the interactions between Wutai and Midgar if they weren't going to make that not only a required segment but also give more depth on Wutai. We'll know exactly what that's like in the next part, I think.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Sorry, my camera died. I just switched batteries. But yeah, I think that's a great way to do it. Somebody said he got the Masamune in the gold saucer. Well, that makes sense. He won it in a mini game. But yeah, I agree, BGG, because of what they're doing with Avalanche as well.
Right? Yeah.
Look how they're setting up the Wutai connections and everything. Thanks for the bit, Sean. Like how they're setting everything up. So I think it's already been done, and that's what I think a lot of people, detractors from the remake, just ignore is all the setups, man. Look what they're doing with Wutai. Look what they're doing with the rest of the world, other nations. This is sort of like geopolitical climate that's being set up a lot deeper than the OG, and they're doing it for a payoff, So I can't wait to see what goes down. And, just thinking about the cool connections of the Turks in Wutai and Don Corneo and stuff, and look what they're doing with Corneo. He's even got some more stuff going on. You got more connections to him. It's just like the payoff for this is going to be, I think, much more rewarding than like whichever, theories are correct or whatever. It's kind of the classic quote, like journey before destination, right? And a lot of people are already just not enjoying the journey at all. They just want to know like whatever theory was right. And I feel like they'd be happy just to read it and not even play the game a lot of times. So I encourage you all to really, in the way that a lot of us content creators do in the FF community here, like really just bite into the delicious trail they've laid out for us of breadcrumbs and everything. Because it's just, we come back to the Calm short film at the end, right? The trip to Calm, even cutting ZacK out. It's just painstakingly, lovingly put together for us, out of passion. Talk about your crazy theories, say what you want, but that is literally just for the fans, that scene. You can argue there's some really cool lines that are said, and I would agree with you there, actually. Notice that Aerith says, like, her stomach is in knots. It's like, oh, wait, that could be twofold, right? A reference to her doom, because she gets stabbed in the sternum or the abdomen, whatever you want to say. And also, it could be related to this. She walked past ZacK. She's feeling weird all of a sudden. Like, what was it? Was it the planet speaking to her? Was it a memory of his death? Was it something else, right? There's just a lot of cool layers to everything that's said, and there's so much care put into it. And I just encourage everybody to appreciate it, which tends to be my mission a lot with this stuff. So, let's move on to another topic, which a lot of people have been talking about this. How do you feel about Marlene? BGG. Basic thoughts. She being set up for something?
Wow.
What's going on with Marlene, man? What's this Aerith thing? Is she communicating with Barrett at the end when she says Daddy and she says Marlene? What's going on here? What do you think, man?
So that's a really interesting topic. And you have that little scene when you're going back into Sector 7 to do the evacuation, and you have that little moment with Marlene and Aerith where there's this kind of like thing that happens and you're not quite sure what's going on. Here, my thoughts on it are that she isn't getting some kind of special powers or anything like that. I think so. A mind of a child is very open and free, and it's not confined to the rules of life's harsh realities. It's
True.
Very open-minded. They almost kind of want magic and mysterious things to exist in fairy tales and everything like that. So I think that because of that open mind, when Aerith touches her, kind of a little bit of herself kind of lets loose, and Marlene kind of senses it because of her open mind as a child, and she's going to have a little bit more of a sensitivity to the live stream. And I think what this scene is doing, I think it's literally building up to the very, 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 very end of the game. In the original Final Fantasy VII original, she's in Calm and she opens up the windows and she says, "It's coming."
Yeah.
And then, boom, the live stream starts to sprout from the ground and, weaves its way around and finally culminates together to defend Midgar against Meteor. So I think all this is doing is kind of letting everybody know that Marlene has a little bit of sensitivity to the live stream now,
Yeah.
And I think the same kind of thing sort of happened with Red 13 at the Hojo Laboratory.
Yes.
I think Red 13 was still Red 13. It's always Inaki. It's always Red 13. Same person, same character. I think the experiments of Hojo kind of set him into a feral state, and Aerith just kind of healed him. Because she has a healing power. Like her limit break is healing wave. She has an innate healing power. Same kind of thing is going on at the very end of the game before you fight the Whispers. You have that shadowy gate that Sephiroth cuts through the Whispers.
Yeah.
And she's kind of healing this scar, to kind of make it feel a little bit more inviting and calming and everything. And look, it's okay. We can go. Let's do this. And I think the whole Marlene scene is just sort of that child open mind. It's showing that she has a little bit of a sensitivity to the live stream so she can kind of feel it when we get to that moment.
I love that.
I don't think she's
That's
going to be
a great
like
point.
I don't think she's like also an ancient or whatever, anything crazy like that. I think that compromises the integrity of those quote major plot points.
Yep.
I
agree.
think that they would do that.
I would agree that it just takes away from Aerith, right? That she's the last ancient and everything. And I like that they're setting it up. And I think I agree with BGG that it's building towards that moment, which is already like a big, like, wait, how does Marlene know it's coming, right? Is it just children are more innocent, therefore they're connected to the planet or something, right? Or they're not tainted by, the harsh realities of growing up and stuff, right? But I think it would be cool if, just in the way Wall Market is in the rest of the remake, that's expanded upon in some way. Maybe she takes some action maybe she helps people in Calm, in Midgar. Maybe she does something. I think that'd be a cool way to kind of tie up stuff with, because Elmira will be in it again. Because I think, unless I'm wrong, Elmira is like watching over Marlene for the entire game in Calm, right? So I think that would be cool. And but I agree with BGG. I hope they don't do some crazy, like, Marlene kills Sephiroth, is the last ancient, jumps into the live stream, picks up the the PS V60 live stream controller, and has the live stream pop up and kill Sephiroth, right? I hope they don't do that. Elmira, ancient babysitter. Yeah, Elmira gets all the ancient. That's funny. Yeah,
it's again, it's possible that they like make her as half ancient as well, or something like that. But like I said before, the major plot points are still a factor that Square Enix wants to hit. And I think that they could probably write it in somewhat just to kind of make sure that, hey, look, the ancients aren't extinct anymore after Aerith dies. You got Marlene, they live on or whatever. But I think happy endings and yay, everybody wins and it's so happy and sunshines and rainbows and everything is not the story that they're going to tell. Bad things happen. Look at Final Fantasy VI. Do you think they give a crap about people dying or like the world's coming to an end or whatever? Like, shit, like stuff's going to happen. Like bad things are going to happen to the world, and there are going to be permanent consequences to the bad things that these people do. Because if you just have a reverse button at the end of the game, it completely trivializes all the struggles that everybody went through, everything that happened. It just like, oh look, everybody came back to life in a world that was completely eradicated. It's also somehow like whole again.
What?
And it's
death?
Just, what's the point? You don't have any kind of actual sort of consequence at all. There's just no consequence to the story. And I think that making Marlene half ancient or something like that is sort of alleviating that consequence of Aerith's death. It trivializes her sacrifice.
I agree completely. I agree. And hilarious timing there by Gunblade on the bits. Death. Yeah. I agree. And like I said, joking aside, right? I don't think Marlene's going to jump in the live stream and, pull out the controller and stuff. But I think it would be cool for her just to like, I don't know what exactly I'm saying. Probably just for her to have like more of an agency in the plot, because Marlene's a cool character, and even if she just has some meaningful character moments, I think what I would like to see, and a lot of people have touched on this, that narratively speaking, Barrett is not in it as much and doesn't have as many like super meaningful moments, of course, after Coral with Dyne and everything in the flashback. So I would love to see just, moments with Barrett and Marlene, because that's his family, that's his connection. And look at the beautiful connections we have with Tifa and Marlene. Man, that whole flashback with Tifa and Marlene is just, I think it's one of the best scenes in the game, again, with subtlety speaking. When Tifa's cleaning the dishes and she said, "Is Daddy coming home?" And she has to say no. Mm-hmm. Or, when's Daddy coming? She has no idea when he's coming home.
And she just starts crying.
Yeah, just beautiful.
Because it makes her think of Daddy.
Yep, because she says, "Oh, Betty's dad helped her out today," or whatever. It's just a beautiful scene. And it makes you wonder, like, man, Tifa would be super invested in Marlene, too. She's kind of like help raising her. So I would love to see these moments where, maybe we circle back. Again, we'll have an airship eventually. They can fly to Comm in 2 minutes. They would go visit Marlene. Barrett would visit his daughter, and make sure she's okay, make sure Elmira's all set, make sure they're safe. So there's just a lot of opportunities. Again, looking at that damn short film, The Comm, like, can you imagine? There could be like a short film where Barrett goes to see Marlene in between, part 2 and the end before they go to the Northern Crater or whatever. I had this idea a long time ago where I think the romance scene with Cloud and Tifa under the airship is going to top FF10. That's my personal theory, because look what they did with the hug scene, dude. Yeah. Look at the hug scene with Tifa and Cloud. It's like as emotional almost as the tightest unit. Jesus. So can you imagine what they're gonna do and treat us to? But I was thinking this, which I've said like a long ass time ago on stream. What if we get this scene where we'll get like the new Nobu Uematsu? He gives us a new song each game and contributes. Right? We get the new Nobu song for the Cloud and Tifa kiss, like we do in FF10. But leading up to that, we have, how does everybody else spend their last night on Earth? They think they're going to die, right? They think the world is literally ending. I want to see emotional stuff. I want to see Sid go apologize to Shara, right? For everything he did to her. I want to see Barrett go to Marlene. And as a father, you can't tell your 4-year-old girl that the world's ending tomorrow, right? So I want to see him just struggle with that. And like, he's kind of almost crying, but he just has to embrace her and not say anything. Can you imagine the struggle as a father? I got to go try and save the world, but like it ain't looking good. Don't look up. She asks him, "Is the world going to end?" What's he going to say? So there's just these incredible storms. We get Nanaki going back to Cosmo Canyon, doing something like they could just really go into his father's statue, right? Oh my God. They could just destroy us with these few spoken word scenes and then give us just this like monumental scene with Cloud and Tifa. Again, not some like ridiculous, cheek clapping insanity. Tasteful like FF10, right? Maybe like a shirt comes off, but no nudity or anything. And I think it would be really cool. But how do you feel about it?
This idea, just to have these short, like you say, short little sequences.
Yep, very short.
Minute each character kind of thing, or even less. It could even just have a scene where it's kind of like Cloud and Tifa are talking over Barrett coming up to Marlene. You kind of get a muffled dialogue of Barrett and Marlene, doing their thing and hugging or whatever. And Tifa and Cloud have the major scene talking over that as they're showing the different people, talking about their friends and the struggle they have to go forward to, or even expanding a little bit on it, like you say, and actually having to have these characters go through this emotional moment with their loved ones or whatever.
Yeah.
Instead of it just being Tifa leaning on Cloud's shoulder and then fade to black.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a great scene, of course, right? She says whatever words aren't done. Great scene, great lines put in, but like, again, look at the hug scene. They're going to give us something absolutely moving and spectacular. I mean, that scene got me. And I love those resolution scenes. I'm pretty sure everybody does, right? I mean, my God, they're all so beautiful in their own ways. And I think what surprised me about that is, or what I liked about it is, it comes out of nowhere. Like, there's no reason to even expect that. And again, this is just them having a little moment to themselves before they go to save Aerith. Can you imagine when, like, the world's ending? Meteor's going to kill us all. We screwed up. Cloud gave them the blood. Like, the stakes are much higher and the emotions are going to be running high, So I just can't wait to see what they do. And if they continue on this consistent level, we're in for a treat, because that was one of my thoughts during that Tifa scene was, oh, dear God. Like, this is better than I expected. And you guys know I am the most ridiculous high expectation person with this stuff. So I can't wait to see what they do. And then even the stuff with Cloud's mind, as BGG said at the end, which is clearly now like the edge of creation and stuff. Be circling back there probably right for the end. Like what a cool thing they're gonna give us, man. And I think no matter what, it's gonna be great. I would also like to see, how do you feel about this, BGG? Like, I want to see Sephiroth's character after he's like, God tier Sephiroth. As far as I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, I don't believe he speaks one word ever in his actual body. At the end, he says nothing.
He does.
What does he say?
Well, in the flashback sequence, you get Sephiroth before he goes crazy.
Oh, no. I mean, like, after his body's reconstructed, like, out of the live stream, I don't think he actually says anything.
Yeah, he does. He speaks to you at the end when you encounter him. He says a few words.
Right, you're right. He speaks at the end, yeah. I don't think he does at the end battle, though. And guys, correct me if I'm wrong on this. He just, like, hovering there. And the guys say something like Cloud, Barrett, but he just sits there hovering, right? I don't think he actually says anything, which is kind of cool.
I'm not positive he has any lines there, actually. But yeah. You really don't hear... well, here's the thing, though. It's possible. Here's my thought on this. So you remember how I said, like, the reunion happens, right? But you never really... Here, like you see the remnants going to the crater, but after that, it's over. You never see a remnant again. It doesn't really explain what's going on here.
Yes.
So it's my thought that the reason Sephiroth isn't a focus anymore, he's not around anymore, is because he doesn't have the remnants to go and mess around with Cloud anymore. Because he's dead right now, right? He's dead in the northern crater trying to reform his body, and he uses the Genova cells and the remnants to get at Cloud to mess around with him.
Yeah.
So when the reunion happens, he no longer has that ability. He's over in the northern crater trying to prevent Holy from going and, absorbing some power, assumingly, and hoping for the meteor to hit for live stream energies and all that good stuff for him to absorb. Because what he wants to do is he wants meteor to hit the planet, the live stream to go and try to repair it, and he wants to sit in the middle of it and absorb all the energy of the live stream. That's why he summons meteor. That's what he wants to do.
Yeah.
So, the reason you don't see him, obviously, is no more remnants. He's over in the crater. I'm sure that when you go there, that he's going to have some lines. But it's going to be interesting because he's actually alive as opposed to talking through the remnants.
And that's kind of my point. Is it's kind of cool on the one hand that imagine the mindset, right? That you just said it. He's trying to literally become a god by like taking the entire planet's life force and just taking it like eerily, like he did with the Whispers, right? Just absorb it into his arm. Like it's pretty much what he did. Scary thought, right? Imagine on like a world scale, the entire life stream healing, right? But I would love it if they expand on either one of the two. Number one, he's so arrogant. Like you have to be such an insane god complex lunatic arrogant to want to do that. That why would he even speak to us, right? These like insects at this point. He's just using us as tools to get his body back, as BGG said he does, and then he's just like going to absorb the thing. He doesn't have to speak, but I would love for them to expand on whatever it is with like acting and characterization. I hope he speaks differently, as we've already said in the part one. He's speaking differently in different scenes, and I really hope they play it up like that elevated Sephiroth. And I do hope.
I think the reason that Sephiroth has different speech patterns in the Japanese version, I think it's based on the remnant that he's inhabiting, more or less.
That's a cool idea.
Like there's as a part of their essence that kind of follows through. So it's almost like a personality complex because he's battling with that host's personality.
I've not heard that one. Yeah, that's a great one. That's a great idea, dude. Yeah, that makes sense too. That have like some lingering will, even though they're being used. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want more Sephiroth characterization is kind of the moral of my story. And I think we're gonna get it because we already have, and that's why I keep saying to people who are like, they ruined Sephiroth by showing him early and stuff. Is like, okay, yeah. It's just more characterization, man. So I think it's gonna be great. We're also getting this. It's a part of Ever Crisis, I think, guys, right? That we're getting a Nojima written like look into childhood, young life of Sephiroth. So I don't think like Wutai War necessarily. But we're getting a look into it, which I think is awesome. Like, give us a plot for him, man, because he's just this like nothing character who all we know is like he's really strong when he's older. When he's born, they do some disgusting stuff to his fetus and stuff, and then he's really bad. We don't know too much of the in between. So I just would love to see. He's such an iconic character, and if they nail it, they could kind of like make him iconic all over again. I feel that could be cool.
So I'm seeing a couple things in chat that I want to touch on.
Please, yeah.
First is the Sephiroth obsessing over Cloud. He always obsessed over Cloud. That's his deal. That's his shtick.
Yeah, it's true.
He's always had a thing for Cloud. That's why he picks on him all the time, because Cloud is the one that killed him. He has this attachment to him. Sephiroth is the god soldier. He's the best in the world.
Yep.
How could anybody, especially some lowly grunt like Cloud, defeat him? So he has this obsession on him. That's the story of FF7.
Yeah.
And as far as
He
like
respects him.
the
Yeah.
Genova versus Sephiroth, 100% Sephiroth is in control, not Genova. Genova is nothing to Sephiroth. Sephiroth has full control of all Genova cells, and he is 100% in charge.
Yeah, that's
Genova
that's
is
confirmed
an afterthought.
too.
You fight little pieces of Genova before the real battle, which is Sephiroth. It's nothing. You don't even get to talk to Genova. You don't even get to like interact with it. It's just a little boss, little mini boss before the real boss.
Yeah, yeah, and it's such a cool idea too that he respects Cloud because he killed him. Like it's such a backwards idea for us to consider, but like for someone like Sephiroth, that probably would be the case. You know, he's just again this lonely warrior, as I talk about so much, right? He would respect somebody.
These tie in together. If Genova was in control, do you think Genova cares about Cloud? No, like at all, because it's not even a factor. She doesn't even think about it. It's not even there. Her purpose is to drain the planet of all its energy and then go back into space and find it. She's Lavos, you know.
Yeah, kind of
kill all the life, absorb it all, go to the next planet and just feed off of that one. That's it. She doesn't want to destroy humanity per se. She just wants to take all the energy and leave. She's just Lavos.
That's a good point, actually.
But yeah, those two things are connected, because if Sephiroth was not in control, what would Genova care about Cloud and mess with him and all the remnants and the reunion? Reunion she'd care about, but that's about it.
Yeah, and I always love that idea too. Is like, how cool is that Sephiroth is so powerful? It's almost like both Genova and Shinra try to use Sephiroth, and I think that's what pisses him off so much. That at the end he's like, I'm doing my own thing and like screw everything. And like in Advent Children, he has this sort of like referential language for his mother and stuff that, you know, he has a little bit in the flashback, of course, but I think it's more like morbid curiosity and like insanity in the original. I'm going to see my mother, you know, but you know, for his own purposes. But I think it's such a cool idea that he's just always attempted to be controlled his entire life, and then he's just like, screw everybody. It's a cool idea. And again, man, this calm flashback is going to be, I think, the most important sort of like narrative moment that will sell or sink Sephiroth. And that goes down to the acting, the writing. I have full faith after Intermission, of course. But like, man, this is the time they really need to nail what we're talking about, his fall from grace, his, you know, kind of like Anakin Skywalker moment, right? Where, but we have to feel for him. We have to not want him to fall. And they can do it if they do it, I think, better than Crisis Core, because we didn't get any.
Yeah, you should want to see him as a hero.
Yeah, there's nothing. He doesn't even do anything in Crisis Core. He's just kind of cool guy in Crisis Core. We don't see him do anything crazy, right? So I think hopefully we get that, and I think it is probably the most important moment for new viewers. They gotta nail that. They gotta nail that down, and everything we're talking about, man. This subtlety with how she's gonna take over. How they're going to go down that route. I think it's very important that they nail that and fill in some of the ambiguity. We'll see. But I think we're going to get a long-ass calm flashback and a great opening to the next game.
I have a thought about the calm flashback, and it
What do you think?
comes right back around to what you were talking about with know seeing Sephiroth as a hero. Obviously, we're going to see some past, but in FF7, a lot of the storytelling is very much focused on Cloud's past, Cloud's perspective, Cloud's history. And a lot of games are very, linear storytelling like this, where it follows the stuff of one character. You don't see very many scenes where it's not Cloud, and the only time that you really do is when Cloud is kind of sort of incapacitated, when he's got mako poisoning in the hospital or whatever, right? So it's possible that they kind of expand on that, because they already have sort of given more value to non-Cloud narrative. And we actually see in the calm flashback, like, Cloud starts off with Sephiroth was a war hero, and it kind of goes through these sort of scenes in the background as Cloud is talking, and showing Sephiroth's exploits, him fighting a horde of Wutai soldiers or something, kind of like not overwriting it and not sort of like giving this million paragraph exposition, but sort of just showing a little bit of action of Sephiroth, some of the things that he did, and detailing a little bit more of the exploits. Like there was this mission that he had to do, and he did the thing, and it turned the tide of the war forever, and that's why he's a war hero. My experience with Sephiroth is this, and then we segue into the actual calm flashback.
Oh, that's good, man. You just made me so excited because, yeah, I remember the quote, right? It's exactly what he said. It's Sephiroth is a war hero, and he says any story you've heard about him, it's worse. Like he's endlessly stronger than you can possibly imagine. So that's all I need to say. And then give us a little something.
While he's talking, just little scenes in the background, like kind of a sepia
and even
filter. You know.
Yeah. And even one line more, it can give us most of what I asked for in my thing. Unless they go into more of it later. With like if they say like when they say he single-handedly ended the Wutai War, like. You can't imagine like the carnage he inflicted, and you just see bodies upon bodies upon bodies on a battlefield. Like, it would be so cool because we don't ever see a war. God damn it! It's always like it's this weird, from what I understand, in Crisis Core. It's like this kind of Cold War, like there's like one soldier, ZacK, running around doing a mission behind the scenes, fight a couple monsters, like. There's never a war. Like, give us a war, man. Give us a battlefield. And they already showed, like, this whole Melfi thing with Sonon. There's, like, missiles. It says the war was over, too, and this shit's still happening. So I can't wait to see, what they do. And I think if they show that for Melfi and Sonon, they better show for Sephiroth, right? So give us a little something.
I don't think we'll see much more of them anymore. I think that was, like, an addition for the DLC specifically, their story. Because... bringing it back just for like fan service purposes, because like think about the beginning of Crisis Core, you're ZacK and Wutai, and then suddenly Yuffie appears doing her little punch jab animation. Yep. It's just like, oh god, so contrived. It's like you don't need to have the character in there just because they exist. You don't need to have these interactions. Like sometimes less is more. And so, like, ZacK not running into Yuffie would be a lot better because, like, what's the likelihood of that actually happening? And, of course, ZacK is going to have to kill her because, soldier, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's not like she's going to have a fighting chance. But anyway, the point I'm getting at is, like, I think referencing Sonan, or at least Yuffie kind of, like, thinking about it, when you actually get there and to the right scene would be all right. But like I think it's like all of a sudden you encounter, Sephiroth obviously interacted with Sonan and Melfi, duh. Like just because they're characters in the story, they happen to be in the same place, doesn't mean that you have to have them interact.
Oh yeah, totally. I think more of like a referential treatment of that is good.
Yeah.
Like say for example, we talk about like the Iliad and stuff. There's like generals on each side, right? So think about the 5 guys. There's the 5 warriors in the pagoda, right? That you fight in Wutai. I think it's 5 levels, right? 4 or 5, whatever. But yeah, imagine.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's one of the 2. But imagine those sub bosses would be like some of the best warriors in Wutai, right? So again, if they want to kind of give us
them being out there fighting,
good world building. Imagine we get this again. It could be 20 seconds. It could be 5 minutes. Whatever. Like this cool view of Sephiroth in the battlefield. Say you see, because again, Sephiroth, killing faceless stormtrooper type stuff is not as meaningful as give us some faces. Show us Godo, obviously. As a general, show us those 5 people. If I don't remember their names, please let me know because they've escaped me right now. The people you fight there, like see them on the front lines leading units of troops, and let's see their troops get like slaughtered by one man. Like who the hell is that? It's Sephiroth. Like stuff like that would just add to the world building. Again, we don't need a 10-minute scene, as BGG said with Sonon and Sephiroth and stuff. But yeah, it's going to be well done if they, I think, connect everything a little bit, some connective tissue. Scarlet. That's a good point. Scarlet fought in the Wutai War. Or at least her machines did, Warrior. I don't think Scarlet was out there, like, swinging a sword or anything. But you want to be your stool. Okay.
High aspirations.
High aspirations, yes. Low as they are. High indeed. But okay, so I think we're at the point where we're going to look at chat in a dedicated way. So all you guys who had the, like, copied messages from earlier that you've been saving or cool questions you want to ask, we're going to turn to the chat and kind of open it up a little bit so you can go back to stuff we said earlier, give us new ideas. What do we think? What do we think? And we'll just kind of let BGG look at the chat too, and let's pick anything out that you see. If anything excites you, BGG, just hop right on it.
Well, the first question I see is, do you think characters will get new arcs? And I think yes and no. I think they're obviously going to flesh out the characters just as they have. One thing I wanted to talk about earlier, actually, was something I forgot to mention when you were talking about how, like, once you do the Dine thing, Barrett just kind of disappears in FF7.
Yep.
Throughout all of Midgar, every character felt important to all the things that were happening,
Yes.
even Red. And I think it's really important that they continue that. Every character having an active role in the storytelling, where it's not just whoever you happen to have with you says the generic line that everybody would have if they're in character slot 2 or whatever.
Yes.
So I think that they will very much expand upon the storytelling as they have in every other part. They've already said as much. But as far as new arcs go, I think that as long as it fits the narrative, kind of like how Leslie gets an arc, right?
Yep.
You get the whole Leslie thing. As long as it fits like that to kind of expand on different parts of the game and different dungeons and everything like that to give more value and more content and more storytelling to the game in general. Yeah, sure. An arc would be fine. I don't see them shying away from it, but I don't see them like, one thing I hope they shy away from is like everybody having their special anime moment. You don't need to have everybody having their moment, What I liked the best about FF7 Remake was that they didn't do that. But what they did do is when Cloud needed to go for Sephiroth after the final battle and the final cutscene, everybody kind of punches a ghost away or whatever.
Yep,
like
that was
Aerith
cool.
shoots her little staff, Tifa punches, Red swipes, Barrett shooting. That's enough. That's just showing everybody's together. They're having a concerted effort. But we really don't need like the Barrett dungeon where Barrett, does his thing. We don't need the Tifa dungeon where Tifa does her special thing where they, find her martial artist master and he's in trouble now and they gotta find this resolution so she can get bum rush. I mean, get the power inside her all along or whatever. You know what I mean? Like they don't need their special anime moment. Just having them be more involved in the story and the storytelling and the writing and the dialogue and interacting with everything as a whole is all that matters. In
Yes.
FF7, when Aerith dies, depending on who you have in your party, you get a different little interaction.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to be Bum Rush's FF6. It's Sabin. He's the punchy guy in that game. And you get, play FF6. I think it's important that they have a static cutscene where everybody has a reaction and not just whoever you happen to have in your party,
Yes, I agree with you. Said it's what I said earlier, right? Like in a more FF10 way, let's have everybody develop together on the same story that drives the narrative, like the spine of the narrative, and one cohesive plot. We get our character moments on the way. Like BG said, we don't need our side anime saga episode where Tifa or whoever goes off and then we ignore the story for a while. Side quests are fine, optional stuff, right? That's awesome. We love that. But we don't want to have this kind of like disjointed separate thing. We want it so everybody, like I always talk about FF10 in when you get to the Albed home, right? And you have Waka kind of coming to terms with his racism and his issues and everything. You have Riku and Waka connecting. You have the truth about Yuna being revealed, Titus revelations, and everything. It's all happening at once, right? There's no like, oh, let's go do the Waka quest scene over there for a while and forget about the main plot. It's all driving the narrative home, and that's one of the greatest strengths of FF10. So they're already beyond FF10 at this point, right? So F10 was after 7; they got better. So I think we will continue to see that. And as BG
that
said,
storytelling is narrow focused, where it's like you only
Yes.
have the mental capacity to write one story at a time.
Yep.
It's just like here's the X character dungeon, and all they can focus on is writing on this. And like you say, with the FF10 thing, you're coming to terms with multiple character arcs coming to a conclusion, and it's all happening, like you say, all at one time. You're having
Yes.
all these emotions kind of bouncing up and down, and that is depth of storytelling.
yeah, and it all comes down to good outlining from a writing perspective, right? And that's why like a lower experienced writer will kind of just write from their head without planning anything, and that's where that stuff comes from. So it'll be like, oh shit, I got to tie up Tifa now. We didn't tie up Tifa's story. Let's just have her. Yeah, that'll be good. We'll tie that up. I'm exaggerating. But like, a good writer outlines everything. And then especially in a story on this scale, of course they did. Of course they're planning everything. And again, we're seeing the planning come to fruition. What excites me is, it's not a script roulette, as I said, right, with Star Wars 7, 8, 9. No matter how you feel about those movies, literally each director got started fresh on the script, and then the old director came back, tried to retcon it. It was just all over the place. Even if you like them, it wasn't planned from the beginning, right? As enjoyable or non-enjoyable as they are to you. So this is clearly planned because they had a long ass time, many, many years before since Advent Children or whatever.
So Loving Lycan asks, thank you for the interview, and you're welcome. Was there a song that stood out the first time you played FF7 PS1? Are you looking forward to a specific composition being remastered? Mahalo.
Good question. Good question.
Birth of a God. Full stop.
Yeah. Oh, Birth of a God. Hell yeah. That's a good song. Yeah.
And it's interesting because, like, while we have heard lots and lots of One Winged Angel and different little Sephiroth type thingies or whatever, we have not heard Birth of a God. And I mean, that is my favorite track of the entire FF7 OG. So
it's a good choice.
I think there's a lot of tracks that we haven't heard yet. And I think that's by design.
Yeah, totally. I agree. That's a good question. I like it.
Yeah. Well, what about Elena and Sisney? Obviously, we're going to see Elena. Duh. She's in the main story. We will see Elena. As far as Sisney goes, I could care less, but
me too. Yeah.
I did have this theory that we get a Vincent DLC, but it's about the past, and it kind of wraps up some of the Crisis Core type stuff that you get with that game, but delivers it in a much more profound meaningful manner. So you're playing as Turk Vincent, and you kind of have a sort of some of his kit from the actual game that you'll get without the transformations, maybe. And you'll kind of encounter some of the characters from Crisis Core, like Sisney, because you're a Turk, obviously. And it can wrap up and retell and remake a lot of that Crisis Core stuff, which could also possibly touch a little bit on Sephiroth's story. But they got to be careful here, because if they delve too much into that kind of thing, you could really hurt the story, because Crisis Core was not a good story. It really, really warped a lot of the FF7 story and plot and retconned a lot of things and made things contradictory, like a lot of the One Winged Angel soldier things and a lot of like how ZacK's story kind of went.
Everybody gets a wing,
right. Yeah,
you get a wing.
Cool.
You get a wing.
Completely trivializes Sephiroth's whole One Winged Angel motif, but anyway, which is highly symbolic, by the way. It's not just something cool, it's symbolic. It's very profound. But anyway, the concept seems nice, but they would have to be very careful on that. Otherwise, if they don't do some kind of flashback sequence where they just have Sisney as like a 2-line character and then do away with her or whatever, it would be really hard to bring her into the story without really
I agree.
High potential of compromising story integrity.
Yeah, I think if they do, it's
Elena's,
like Nero and Vice. Maybe. Cool.
I can't wait for Elena. It's gonna be great.
Oh yeah, she's cool. She's great, and the humor of the Turks will just be expanded. Like it's kind of this comic trio of Elena, Rufus, and Rena, Rude and Rena. It's gonna be great, and I can't wait to see how they introduce her. And this is what excites me about this, guys. Is another reason I'm excited that we have this like saga now coming. Is we get to see, when like the new trailer comes out, we've never seen Elena. We've never seen Vincent. There's so many characters that we don't even know what they look like in the remade, redesigned form. And it's such a great time to be a FF fan, particularly FF7 fan, but pretty much every kind in general. With the Pixel remasters coming out and the 16 and everything, it's just an awesome time. So,
what is question Sephiroth? When will question Sephiroth reveal himself? I don't know what you mean. Could you elaborate on that, Warrior?
Do you mean just like Sephiroth, whatever he's planning in Edge of Creation, he like reveals that plan, or what do you mean? Yeah. Vincent is linked to chaos. Is he it? Sisney. Yeah.
I think Cloud and Tifa will kiss. I don't think there'll be any kissing at all. I think it would be forced. I think it would be really, really forced fan service to force out a kiss. I think there'll be a touching, heartwarming cutscene, and then it'll probably leave it to your imagination. Actually, in the original Final Fantasy VII, Tifa and Cloud were supposed to walk out of the Chocobo.
Yeah, did anybody see? Yeah,
what do you call it?
Pretty
the barn.
Yeah.
So
on the
you're
airship.
kind of supposed to, you're supposed to make a connection that you're knocking boots or whatever, but it doesn't explicitly state it. So just like in the original, at least Tifa just kind of rests her head against the shoulder, and when you get back up in the airship, everybody has these dialogue lines like, "So, hey, how's it going?" And you're just like, "What? You saw that?" Kind of thing. But you're not really supposed to know that they actually did anything. Whether or not they did is left up to your imagination, so you can kind of come to your own conclusion. But the thing about like actual hard romance in games is it really makes it more about the romance, and that's not really what FF7 is about. Or Final Fantasy X, that is the game that has the hard romance. That is the story of Final Fantasy X, is that hard romance between Tidus and Yuna. The whole story is this build up, this teenage love that's budding, and the awkwardness that they have while also having this heavy weight above their shoulders, that they're carrying, right? So that's the game for that. FF7 is not that game. So I doubt we'll see any kind of like I said, hard romance where it's kissing of any kind. There might be some suggestive content that, you can fill in the blanks on, but I doubt that it'll go further than that.
I'm still hoping for my FF10, topping FF10 kissing scene, and so we'll see though. We'll see. I think either one's fine.
It's possible that they go that way.
Yeah, either one's fine as long as it's well told. I think there's just so much room, like what they've been doing with all the characters, and like even Barrett and Cloud. There's just so much humanity between them all that I think they probably will like dive into it either way on those scenes, and then like think about the awkward aftermath of that, like kind of like somebody for a long time or had sexual tension, finally let it out, but it's like because the world's ending and nothing matters anymore, and you figured might as well, since the world's ending. Like it's just they could do so much with that, and then kind of the awkwardness of that, but then also the comfort is like, well, we're gonna die most likely. So I think there's a lot there, but either way, it's whether it's like BG said or like I'm saying, if they deliver those scenes, which again I keep talking about the resolution scenes, like my God, it's gonna be heavy and it's gonna be beautiful. Like again, just picture one of them, like Sid going to see Shara and apologizing, kind of breaking down, like, God, I've been a jackass and probably we're gonna die, and what have I been doing with my life? Jesus Christ! Like it would just be so cool. Again, with not even with so few words, you don't even need much there for any of those ideas I have. But I think, oh man, that'll be like the scene that everybody talks about if nailed, I feel.
What I don't hope for is that kind of thing at the end, in the final cutscene.
Post credits or post battle.
Yeah, post credits forcing out like, hey, Sid returns to Cher. They live happily ever after kind of thing. That's back in the 90s, that's great, but now no thank you. So yeah, I like the concept of expanding on that, before the final battle scenes. That's cool.
Yeah, we can get all our character moments. Like we said, it's kind of the mark of a bad story, right? If they don't do any of that the entire time, and then it's over, and the rudder's like, "Shit, tie up everybody's story quick, it's over." That's bad. We want to have this like slow build up of everybody together, not like, "Oh crap, there's loose ends. We didn't do this well enough," So I expect either way it'll be well done. Oh, okay. He's saying, yeah, the Edge of Creation Sephiroth,
Edge of Creation Sephiroth,
the one that's like, what the hell is he talking about?
So, in my opinion, the Edge of Creation Sephiroth is just Sephiroth in his head. It's that same Sephiroth, because you still go through those little tunnel-y thingies like you do at the end of FF7 when you're fighting. The concept of Sephiroth is this self-doubt Sephiroth. I think it's a little bit more tangible than self-doubt Sephiroth, where it's like actually Sephiroth kind of communicating to him specifically through Genova cells to kind of taunt him and torment him a little bit more. And what I like the most about that kind of concept is how easily Sephiroth fends off Cloud's attacks, even in his own mind. But I think that question Sephiroth, or like self-doubt Sephiroth is what I call him. The Sephiroth in Cloud's mind is just that. It's just, that's it. The end. Like it's possible that at the end of the game, when we do the final Omni / Sephiroth fight, that we get that same battlefield, and we get a lot of the similar dialogue. But Cloud has, cleansed himself of his corruption with Genova. He's found himself. He knows who he is. He's regained himself, and he'll have that as the power that he needs to fight off Sephiroth in his mind, to cleanse himself of that self-doubt. And so we'll probably get the same battlefield and the same sort of starting vibe, and it'll kind of be building on that so that he can finally be free of him. So I think in that regard, if that's what you're asking, actually, then at the end of the game, when you Omni Slash the hell out of Sephiroth.
Yeah, and it's cool too that Cloud tries Omni Slash on Sephiroth in the part 1, and Sephiroth is like, "Yeah, you're not ready. Like, you suck." And it's gonna be cool when
kind of does, yeah.
Yeah, and it's gonna be awesome when Cloud is eventually strong. But the cool thing is that Sephiroth, this has been so fascinating to me, is a lot of people talk about, the cool theories about, like, people are saying it's Advent Children Sephiroth, it's whatever Sephiroth, it's that Sephiroth, it's this, the past, whatever. It's just so interesting to me that it's a caring, supportive Sephiroth. Like, Cloud starts to experience this pain that he gets his headaches, and like the distortion image, which he usually gets when he like sees a vision. And then it's Sephiroth instantly touching Cloud's shoulder, and he calms him, and he's like, gives him this kind of like reassuring look. It's very interesting, right? This kind of caring Sephiroth. Yeah. Sephiroth doesn't harm him at all, has the opportunity to murder him, and just doesn't, and says, "I need you alive. I want you to join me." And it's just so fascinating what they're doing. And like BGG said, it could be like this kind of, manipulation, self-doubt sort of Sephiroth, kind of reminding Cloud that he sucks. He's not as good as him. He can't save anyone, as he says in part 1, right? But I don't know. It's just so cool. And it just excites me because they clearly have this really massive plan for these characters that's beyond a simple retelling, yet we're getting the simple retelling, right? So, as I keep saying, we get to have our cake and eat it. We get our remake, yet we're sitting here talking about theories on a story we already know. Like, it's just such a cool concept, and I think that the fact that they pulled it off so succinctly is amazing, and I still think everybody's gonna be pleased at the end.
I think one thing that's really important is that we don't take a lot of the content of the Ultimania or the wording and phrasing that the developers are using too literally. Because like when I'm talking about, self-doubt Sephiroth, this isn't a separate Sephiroth, right? This isn't some kind of like multiple timeline Sephiroth converging, we're gonna fight 8 Sephiroths at once kind of thing. So when they say, question, Sephiroth is a different Sephiroth than the one that we're fighting, it's not saying that there are two Sephiroths. It's just saying that this is a different side of him, a different form of him, while still actually being the one Sephiroth that there is. There's only one, So like, try not to take that wording too literally. And then, because I think a lot of that's where the wild stuff is coming from, where people are just kind of like exploding with different ideas, where it's like, time travel confirmed kind of thing. Well, it's more figurative. It's more suggesting that this Sephiroth, yes, 8 Sephiroths. It's more suggesting that this is a different, even a representation. It's just Sephiroth kind of being a little bit different, and it might even have a lot to do with what I talked about earlier, how like in the Japanese version, he has different speech patterns, and that might just be him combating the host, which is the remnant, having a different personality slightly based on which remnant he's controlling. And then Cloud obviously has his own personality as well, and that could actually be kind of like a sort of inspiration and what do you call it? Like the influence that his mom had, that caring touch, because it's still inside his own mind.
It's true, and it'd be cool either way if we kind of get that revelation by Cloud, like BGG said, maybe in the part where he reconstructs his mind in the live stream with Tifa, could be in another part, but it's just the fact that I want to keep reminding people that it is all planned out, right? They're not just throwing shit together. Completed. Yeah, they're not just like, part 2, I don't know, let's do a cool scene with Sephiroth, like in the place where you fight him in the original, and then just because it looks cool. Like, they're not doing that. Like, this, it's planned out.
Storyboarded the entire thing.
Yeah, whatever it is, like, it's not going to be them scrambling to figure it out at the end, and that alone should excite you.
It's actually kind of funny because when they first announced the Final Fantasy VII remake, they said it'll be three parts, right? which automatically already tells you that they already know everything that's going to happen. They've already planned it out. You know, they already know the major plot points. But then they kind of like went back and they're like, okay, well, maybe 2 parts. Oh, you know what? Maybe it will be 1 part. You know what? We don't know. You know, and right now that's where they're at, is the we don't know. Because I mean, slightly, they're going to look at the storyboard and they're going to, okay, we need to rearrange this, move this, and change that, you know, kind of thing as they're going through. But like they're it's not a hard, you know, storyboard that they need to go through, you know. Yes,
Yeah.
they said that the very first time they announced the Final Fantasy VII Remake, they said 3 parts. And each part will have as much content as the Final Fantasy 13 game, i.e. 40 plus hours of story content. That was their promise at the very, very beginning of their announcement. But shortly after, a couple months later, they went back on there like, you know what, we actually don't know. And then they came back and they said, you know, it's probably going to be about 2 to 4 parts. And then they came back again and said, we don't know. And then they came back again. Like they've been back and forth on it. And their final statement was, you know what, when we first started this project, we wanted to really expand on the story of Final Fantasy VII, and when we started making the content for it, we realized that this is way more deep and involved than we ever expected.
Oh, yeah.
And you guys are going to get full story, you know, gameplay and content in each of these parts, but we don't know how many parts it's going to be. Like, we just don't know. Like, we have this concept, we have this idea, but, you know, things can change and happen, and so we don't know. And there's even a comment by Nomura where he suggested that they might even be doing lots of small installments, you know, like this UV DLC, like every 4 months we get 2 more chapters kind of thing. But I think they've officially scrapped that concept and they're going for major releases.
Yeah. Yeah, it's exciting. Yeah, they don't know the exact, but keep in mind this was I believe over a year ago now, or damn close to it, when Nomura said that, when he said, yeah, I want to do it in 3 parts, but goddamn, like it's, you know, they'd have to it'd take a long ass time to release each one. So I am fine personally, however long they take, like make it good, you know, as long as it's not like a decade per game or something. But
my estimate is 1 to 2 years per part.
Yeah, that seems fair. I mean, they put out Yuffie.
However, COVID's delayed everything, you know.
Right.
I'm pretty sure we were supposed to get FF16 in November, and then COVID happened because
COVID did a lot.
FF14 expansion got pushed back from summer to November.
Yeah, it did a lot of damage that, you know, we don't know how each company deals with it. And, you know, Japan is super strict to the point where they're like, yeah, the Olympics still might not happen. And, you know, because they have like 1 case breakout, they're like, no, shut it down, which is good. They're protective, but, you know, they deal with it differently than here for sure. 50% of all the dialogue in the OG was in Midgar. I don't know about 50%, but it was certainly a massive part of dialogue in Midgar.
There's a lot of depth there.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, how are they going to fit, you know, how are they going to do it in only 2 parts? A lot of the questions I hear. And it's like, dude, once you leave Midgar, it goes fast.
Yeah, it goes real fast.
There's very little like actual storytelling. You get, you know, the Turks a little bit here and there, but it's a little short cutscene, boom.
A lot of stuff
the
happens.
End of disc 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very quick. It just goes by very fast. Midgar is very meaty.
Right. And now I'm sure that like Juno, for existence, Junon, however you want to say it. I say Juno.
Yeah.
Will be freaking huge, and you'll be able to wander around it and stuff. You know, it won't be as big as Midgar. So, but like, yeah, they'd be stupid not to make that a juicy, fun exploration, just like you would have in any, like, you know, big ass RPG. I mean, look at like for God's sake, FF15 with even that one place, like, was it Les Stalem, which is a dumb name, by the way. That like does not roll off the tongue. But yeah, it you know, that was a decent sized town even for like the PS4 and, you know, their attempt at the open world thing. Like, so I think it's gonna be freaking big. Again, we talked about Unreal 5 earlier. It is just far beyond what people are saying. Like, I mean, it is gonna be ridiculous. The things, if they want to, that they can do with the world map are gonna be astronomical. And I think if they make it so it's kind of like Breath of the Wild, which I think is a masterpiece, like fun optional stuff that is just like joyful fun, that it'll make you want to do it, but you don't have to at all, and you can just do the story. But like, imagine all that stuff they could do in the world map, which will take like, you know, a plat to like an amazing fulfilling number of hours, as opposed to in part 1 where like I just was watching BGG do it. You kind of like replay the chapter what was it, chapter 9 a good few times to get the dresses and stuff, which By the way, I think we get dress options for Cloud and the girls and Barrett and everybody in Gold Saucer too. Wouldn't that be fun? What do you think for the dates? For the dates, that'd be
Sailor
cool.
Barrett, let's go.
Yeah, Sailor Barrett on the date. Like, come on.
So Quinst asked, we know FF7 does a lot of things great, but what in your opinion does FF7 do the best, whether it's music, storytelling, characters, big bad, anything? I think it's theming, and what I mean more than that is having the right music for the right the right mood, and keeping the themes of storytelling throughout the entire story. Yeah. And there's no ambiguity, I mean, obviously there's like bad localization ambiguity, but there's no like, what kind of game is this? Wait, what are we actually experiencing? They don't like suddenly shift it to this like ultra love story. There's always a subtlety. There's always this subtlety of the love interest, but never overtly. And that's always really important to keeping the theme, which is, there's a lot of themes. There's like a self-identity, which is a big theme in the game.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But also, coming to terms with life and death, and economical themes as well, with the planet having a life and it needing to heal, and the damage that we cause to it. But all these themes are consistent throughout the entirety of the game, and you don't deviate from those themes up until the very end.
Yeah, I agree. My answer to that too is just on top of what he said is characters, because
character depth and design, story building.
The reason that everybody loses their minds over FF7 and talks it to this day, you'll notice it's always about the characters. It's about Sephiroth. It's about Cloud, Tifa, Aerith. Like the obsession with these characters, because they're so well constructed, even in their like simple state back then. And like I talk about FF10 having a much stronger narrative structure than 7. Like 7, as we joke, kind of goes a little bit all over the place in the middle of there. You kind of just like running back and forth, doing a lot of stuff, go back to the desert, go back to the gold saucer. Like FF10, because it's a pilgrimage, is just like a march forward of the narrative, and it's so strong with the narration driving, with everything driving all the characters. Like, and 10 has amazing characters as well. It's literally my favorite game. Maybe Remake takes the cake now, but I think the characters are the strongest part of 7. Whereas even though the narrative isn't as like succinct and just like clean as 10, the characters just fill people's minds with imagination and joy and stuff. So
not only that, but nice. they have this personality that makes it so you can't really forget them. Yeah. You don't really get that in any other Final Fantasy before Final Fantasy 7. So obviously, you have I love the first 6 FFs. Don't get me wrong.
Me too,
6 is very high on my list. And 7 isn't the highest on my list. It's somewhere in the middle. I love FF7, but I love all the Final Fantasies. So when I say this from a place of love. None of the first Final Fantasy 6s have so memorable a character that you can pinpoint their personality like very clearly. 7 is the first one to give all those characters real personality, and that was a really, really important thing for the era. Do I think it does it the best over any other thing? Debatable, but they was very important that FF7 gave identity to characters before almost any other game had ever done that before in the past.
Yes,
their own personalities, their own real stories, humanization.
Agreed. And actually, really nice point by Birdman is that a lot of people forget that it's not like the Mako and materia and stuff that makes FF7 cool. It is the characters, right? And like that's the funny thing is a lot of people will latch onto that stuff, but like the reason you ever care what even materia is only because of the characters. You relate to their humanity and you see yourself in the characters and stuff, which is why I always liked Tifa, right? Because I was kind of this like super shy, too nice kid who like kind of suffered for his niceness growing up, got into martial arts and stuff. So it's just cool. Like you'll see yourself, and then Cloud, we all have our insecurities and weaknesses and everything and our self-doubt. We see ourselves in Cloud. If you're a father, like my God, like imagine relating to Barrett and everything. So I'm not personally, but and all the other things, like imagine raising as a single dad, a daughter, and like fighting for what's right, fighting for the environment. So I mean, the list goes on. Aerith, like imagine you're like what's the word, like for a people who have suffered in the past and stuff, right? You can just relate to all these characters and see yourself in the story. And I think 7 has just such a framework of like he says, different characters that are so distinguished that you can latch onto. Whereas FF6 is awesome. It is more like an opera, right? It's kind of these like they almost work like musical themes. The characters, like very cool, whimsical ideas, but they don't go that deep into any of them. You know. Thank you so much.
There's a couple questions. Oh, sorry.
No, go.
Finished. A couple questions that are connected. Someone says, "Do you think Vincent will also have future knowledge?" And someone else says, "Do you think it makes sense for Vincent to be sleeping when fate is altered? Wouldn't he have some sense of it?" Okay, so first off, no, Vincent wouldn't have any sense of it because why would he? He doesn't have any connection to the live stream or anything. The whispers are a function of the live stream. They're like they're arbiters or fate is what they call them. Basically, the live stream predicts that this is what I need to have happen in order for the planet to go on. These whispers are basically the police. They're the fate police. You know, they need to correct people and tell them, no, that's not the way to do it. Vincent has no connection to that, none at all. And he is sleeping during the events of Final Fantasy VII, so he would be continuing to sleep. Fate isn't really altered at all, actually. Fate is not altered whatsoever. What's really happening is you're just defying what fate has in store for you, and that's it. You're pushing past this wall that fate has ordained for you, and you're just saying no, and you're walking past it, you know, very, very aggressively. But it also does not make sense for Vincent to have any kind of future sight because, once again, he's not connected to the live stream. He has no power over it. He has no perception of it. He just knows it exists. He's just Vincent. We don't know if Vincent had Genova cells injected to him, so he probably didn't. Otherwise, he'd be prone to the reunion and all that stuff. It's probably just wacky Hojo experiments, and that's why he is the way he is and nothing more. Just monster shit, you know, Mako stuff, whatever. Yeah. Probably just before Genova cells were a thing.
Yeah, he seems to be kind of separate for sure. Also, it's so cool that Nomura said recently, they were talking about they were asking about, do you remember this? They were asking about like, Yuffie, did you consider like including Vincent and stuff? And he's like, well, Vincent's asleep, so no. Like like, so it was awesome that he just said like, holy shit, that's a bigger comment than most people think, because it's just, again, harping home for the 90th time. Like, it's the same story. You know, it's following the same beat. He said that. It's following the same structure. So, hey, he's asleep right now. Why would he be in Shinra or in Midgar? So I love that. It's, you know, it's cool that he just came out and said that so confidently, too. I thought that was hilarious. It's like, no, why would he be
remastered gameplay do you look forward to the most? Submarine, Highwind, or Chocobo farming Gold Saucer? I mean...
Ooh.
Most of those are modes of transportation, so it's got to be the Gold Saucer. Like, everybody's looking forward to the Gold Saucer, right? They want to know what kind of mini games are going to be there or what not.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah. There's going to be new mini games, you know?
No, I'm sure. Yeah. It's going to be good. I love what Lycan said, too.
Arena thing.
Oh, my God. That I got addicted to that last time I played. Like, it was so much fun, man. Like, I forgot.
We're not going to have the... We're not going to have the VRs anymore because we'll be out in the world. So maybe the Golden Saucer will be the new,
that's a good idea.
New arena system, super battles, all that kind of stuff. Although it's possible that you can go back to a VR place to fight other things like Vice or whatever, because
and
they basically just turn them into VR mini bosses and stuff.
Yeah, and I think they probably have maybe Chadley's in like Juno again, because you gotta remember Rufus is there. It's kind of this awesome way they do it of all the characters being involved, even though it's in a different place. So you'll see Heidegger, and honestly, one of the best things is gonna be Heidegger and Rufus. Oh my God, in the original, that shit is hilarious, where he just disrespects. Enough with that horse laugh. It's gonna be ridiculous, right? But can you imagine, like, what the acting is? And you got Waka, what's his name, John DiMaggio or Joe?
Yeah,
John.
John.
It's gonna be awesome when that nonsense takes place. But anyway, and like the Rufus actor is a genius. The way he's just deadpan delivers stuff. Oh God, it's gonna be hilarious. But it's gonna be great. And I love what Lycan said too. Like in the old game, they had this the booklet that came with the game, and it gave these little profiles and stuff. And I remember it said like Sephiroth, whatever, like killed in action, missing or something. And it's like, oh shit. I remember reading that as a kid. It was so much fun. It is Joe DiMaggio. Okay, I'm thinking, somebody else. But I think that's going to be some of the best parts. Gold Saucer is going to be a blast. Absolute blast. And I think they do outfit change dates and everything too. If they're particularly ambitious, depending on how they split up the parts, we probably also get... Because remember, there's kind of... Don't they stake out Hojo at the beach to try and in Costa del Sol. So we probably get, put them in bathing suits. Why you want to look conspicuous? You're in that soldier thing with a big ass sword with like a bunch of military outfits on the beach. Yeah, probably have him throw on a bathing suit, waiting for Hojo to show up to stake him out. I think that'd be a cool way. You can do like depending on how you talk to Aerith and Tifa, they wear something more confident or not. Barrett has the sailor suit, or he's got like trunks on, or something. They can have fun with it. But I think as long as they do it so it's contained in like scenes that make sense, they don't do it in like a Tales way where it's just like mostly nudity outfits for the entire game. We'll be fine. But we'll see. We are going to come to the end. So if you have like an insanely awesome question, throw it down there. We're over 3 hours now, so let's start to wrap up. And also open up the BGG. Start to think like if there's something you really want to talk about or say or share with everybody, because you have spent a lot of time with Final Fantasy over the years, my friend.
So I just want everybody to really, really, really look at the story of the remake and think outside the box, because more than anything, the thing that I really don't want to come to fruition, to be true, even despite them already having planned it out, and I want people to understand more as well, is that there is no time travel. It's none. It's not there. I'm sorry. There is no future Sephiroth or alternate timeline ZacK or anything like that. Everything that makes you think that there's time travel is a big old fat red herring meant for you to think to that very easy low hanging fruit. And they are too smart for that kind of thing. We know that the storytelling here has a lot of integrity, depth, flavor, emotion. And when you enable time travel, you are setting yourself for failure right away, because the integrity of the story is lost, because once time travel becomes a thing, infinite possibilities unfold. It just becomes a mess. And I love Final Fantasy. I love Final Fantasy VII Remake. I love all the main numbered entries. And when I say this, I say this from a place of love, because we have been around this block many times, and it's never a good resolution. So think about the concepts of the real mechanics of FF7 story, Genova cells, Sephiroth's interactions. Go replay Final Fantasy VII OG and actually read the dialogue and compare it and contrast it against the remake dialogue, and see that there are actually some lines that people really hated in the remake that are literal lines from the original. Things that Sephiroth talks about and says, specifically at the Temple of the Ancients. But yeah.
He says, "I will control the future." Yeah, he says that, right? He says some crazy shit in Temple of the Ancients. But yeah, I agree. It's I just really, as my stance is, I hope people enjoy it. And, journey before destination, as I tell everybody. Journey before destination.
I would like to make an addendum that,
Oh, please.
I'm not trying to squash anybody's
fun
fan theory dreams or anything like that. That's not what I'm about. Yeah. I want everybody to enjoy it the way they do. Have your crazy fan theories, sort of elaborate on all your things, but the biggest question you should always ask yourself is why? Why would this be a thing? How does that fit into the story? So whenever you really want to think about a fan theory or your own personal desire, think about, well, how would that fit in, and why does it matter to the story and plot?
Yes. Agreed.
And yes, also another really, really important thing to remember is that it is a remake, and they have said many, many times that all of the previous incarnations of storytelling and games and, whatever are irrelevant. They are cut off from the remake. Do not necessarily utilize them as a means of, well, they have to do this because they're in the original kind of thing. They don't have to do that. The only thing that they have promised us is the main story elements of the original Final Fantasy VII. That being the major turning points in any point of the plot, summoning meteor, Aerith dying, end of story, whatever, that kind of thing. Other than that, it's a free game. Anything can happen. So that's another big thing I hope people acknowledge before thinking about, because I honestly, I don't want anybody to get their expectations too high as well, because too high expectations means that it's easy to fail and then you don't like it. So, we do this out of fun because we love it, but our expectations are, hey, look, we trust them, where they're going to do what they're going to do. Let's just wait. That's my, personal stance on it. I have these crazy fan theories as well, but whatever happens, happens, and we'll get there when we get there.
Yes, I agree, and I encourage anybody too, both for us over here with our theories, and for you guys, like, be open to being proven wrong. If somebody's like super married to like a has to be time travel, has to be this, has to be having children, Sephiroth, has to be that, it's okay. Us with our whatever. I would really encourage everybody to be open to being pleasantly surprised. Enjoy whatever is coming, and as Nomura said right in the first trailer, like whatever it is, let's embrace it. It brings fear, it brings joy. Let's embrace it. And also, don't ever be sort of if you've had a bad experience, like Star Wars, something where like certain story themes were tackled and you hated it. Don't let it be like an ex-girlfriend or boyfriend who has really soured you. Don't be like, I had a bad experience with a significant other, so I'm just never going to date again. I don't date anymore. Right? You want to be able to hop back in and enjoy stuff. So no matter what it is, be open to being pleasantly surprised and really enjoy the story, not like the facts of what happens in the story. If that makes sense. Is that, like you would read a book and not just like skip to the end and read the spoilers. Right? So we all get so obsessed. What's gonna happen with ZacK and stuff? Enjoy the story. Like, I think in this like Twitter culture where you just go and see what's trending. Oh, ZacK's alive. Shit. Like we're so like conditioned to that. But anyways, that's my vague advice. But anyway, let's thank BGG. Thank you so much, man, for coming on. We should do this more often. It's so nice to just catch up.
It was great. I loved all the questions and talking.
So much fun.
I want more.
Good time in Gunblade.
And I know I shouldn't.
Anakin, I want more. Thank you for the bits, but yeah, let's shout out BGG. BGG, if you're in the chat, feel free to type so people can click on your channel. If we can get a shout out too, so people can follow you. Man, a great streamer, and he's always got something to say that's just so insightful. He's like me, we tend to look more into the writing and the story and stuff, and not just play through it and everything. So please check him out. And he's gonna have there he is, and he's gonna have come usually around November, December, the Final Fantasy Fiesta, which we talked about in his intro of the video. So please check it. It's one of my favorite events on the internet every year. So thank you so much for coming on, my friend. Always a pleasure to talk to you. Let's do it again. And I can't wait to see what you think of the future parts as well.
Sure.
Absolutely, man. But in the meantime, we are going to raid Sarah Key as I leave you guys here. So we got a raid message. I'm popping in chat there. Philosopher's Raid. Let's get in there. Sarah Key playing Final Fantasy. So let's go share some support. She's usually doing some pretty wacky, awesome stuff over there. And let's get in there. And what's up, Elsa? Coming in at the end. But yeah, we're going to raid Sarah Key. Thanks again, BGG. If you're over on the YouTube side, guys, please make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're going on 10K subscribers on YouTube. If you're on Twitch, make sure to follow for more content like this. Want to do more talks, more cast interviews from the game, and more theory discussions. So you guys are the best. Thanks for being here. And as I said, check out BGG. His entertainment, I think, is all on Twitch now, right? No more YouTube, BGG?
Nope, no more YouTube. I gave up on it. Just strictly Twitch. It's so much easier for me that way.
I hear you there. Edited my Vice video for like 8 hours today to get it up and stuff. So yeah, guys, check that out too. The Vice video. I'll link in the chat on the way out. And for our new friends from BGG, feel free to hop in the Discord if you want to join the chat. We're having a great time as always, and thank you so much for liking. But anyways, let's do this raid. You guys have a great night. Let's say hi to Sarah, and thanks again, BGG. All right, we are raided, my friend, and the stream is over.